He did. Turbulent air from Paul's car sent Rick sliding. He slammed the wall. Then Rick was lanced by Chris Neifel. As the yellow came out, so did the checkered flag, signaling John Paul Jr.'s first and only IndyCar win. In 1984, Al Unser Jr. was moving to pass Chip Ganassi when Chip collected Al and took both to the guardrail. The cars disintegrated, but neither driver was seriously injured. Later in the same race, Pancho Carter was maneuvering on the backstretch, closing and attempting to pass Rick Mears. But then he lost control. As he ricocheted off the guardrail, he sheared off the thick supporting posts. The car protected its passenger through all of that and a frightening series of flips and rolls. With only a little help, Pancho Carter limped away from this accident. One of the most unusual incidents occurred here in 1984 when Gary Bentonhausen did pirouettes on the top of Howdy Holmes' car. Neither driver was injured. It was this accident that caused Mario Andretti to miss a race for the very first time in his career, as he suffered broken ribs and a shoulder blade. Danny Angayas barrel rolled down the backstretch, destroying his car, but Angayas walked away. It was just last Thursday that Al Unser suffered a broken shoulder and leg in the worst accident of his career. He drove into the turn 3 wall. The car was out of control after a suspension piece broke. Al was flown to Methodist Hospital in Indianapolis, Indiana, where he was operated on, and they say he's going to be released in a couple of days. Now, Bobby Unser, Michigan produces some great racing, but it's one tough track on man and machine.
Well, Paul, it really is. The winters are not really very favorable to Roger Penske's beautiful racetrack here in Michigan. What happens is it gets really cold. The pavement has a tendency to get some frost heaves in it. Gets bumpy. The race cars are really low to the ground, so they hit the ground an awful lot. That plus going 220 miles an hour laps over 12,000 RPM all the way around the racetrack makes it really hard on the cars. Now, link that in with over 5.5 Gs the drivers get in the turns, makes them steer really hard, makes the drivers tired. But in spite of all of this, we often see the best racing here in Michigan that you can see any place.
Now, you talked to your brother on the phone a few minutes ago. How's he doing?
He's doing really good, Paul. In fact, he's going to be watching the race on ABC Sports.
We're set to go. The field lined up. Silence reigns only for the final seconds. We're ready for the command.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
The engines start up and down the pit road, formed up in rows of 3 for a 500-mile race start. Al Unser Jr. is there ready to go. Emerson Fittipaldi has the pole. They've made some changes to these cars for this race. Earlier, Gary Gerald filed this report.
Paul, safety officials determined that the cause of the Al Unser accident was the failure of a key suspension part at the front of the car known as a push rod. I have in my hand here a push rod. It fits between the upper and lower wishbones. We'll point it out. It runs right down through here from the wheel to the chassis. The Lola manufacturers of this chassis have then strongly recommended to all teams running this car that they reinforce push rods prior to the start of this race. So what the teams have done, in this case our Lyondike Shearson team, is take this gusset or doubler, weld one top and bottom at both ends of the push rod, and then install it in the race car. Of course, what they're trying to do is ensure driver safety and make sure that this car can go 500 miles on this very demanding racetrack at 220 miles per hour.
And it gives you a further idea of just how tough the Michigan 500 can be on these machines. The field now rolling on the first of the parade laps. We'll be back for the start right after this.
2, 3. Davey Allison believes. Mario and Michael Andretti believe. Prudhomme believes. You get out of a car what you put into it. Avalon Superior Grade.
Yeah.
Please don't leave.
Final boarding call for flight 178.
Seattle just left. There's another flight at 4. 3 hours? Now what do I do? Gordon, I better call him. I'm gonna do some revisions here. I've got a couple of hours, and if I could just hook up my computer to a phone line.
When you're on the road, nobody has more ways to help you than AT&T.
Time for one more call home.
AT&T, how can we help you?
The Michigan 500. Brought to you by Avalon Superior Grade Motor Oil. Get the most out of your car. By your Toyota dealers and their quality line of cars and trucks. Toyota, I love what you do for me. And by Budweiser, with that clean, crisp, cold taste that makes it the king of beers. Nothing beats a Bud.
The front row aligning themselves on the field. 26 cars ready to answer the green flag. Let's take a look at the starting grid. On the inside of the front row, with his 4th straight pole for a 500-mile race, is Emerson Fittipaldi. In the center of the row is Bobby Rahal, who has 7 top 10 finishes in 8 Michigan 500s, but is still looking for his first win. Outside the front row, Danny Sullivan, who won this event in 1988 at a record speed of just over 180 miles an hour. The second row on the inside is Rick Mears. The first time in 3 years he has failed to qualify on the front row of a 500-mile race. In the center is Al Unser Jr., the current points leader, going for his first win on a super speedway. And Arie Luyendyk is to the outside, the Indianapolis 500 champion, whose best finish here was 5th. The third row to the inside is Teo Fabi, a veteran driver who finished 2nd in the Porsche here a year ago. His teammate John Andretti is alongside, making his best start of the year. Outside is Michael Andretti, the only 2-time winner of the Michigan 500. The fourth row on the inside is Eddie Cheever, the highly touted rookie, making only his 4th start on an oval. The center of the row, Mario Andretti, the winner here in 1984. And outside is A.J. Foyt. He has won on every super speedway except this one. And in the 5th row on the inside, Kevin Kogan back to IndyCar racing. He's been away since the Indy 500. We look down through the field now. Goodyear, Brayton in the 6th row. Jan Vikas, former ARS champion. Pancho Carter, the first winner here. And rookie Dean Hall, the 7th row. Mike Groff, another ARS competitor, Billy Vukovich, and Randy Lewis. In the 8th row, Jeff Wood, Tony Bettenhausen, Raul Boisel. And in the 9th row, Roberto Guerrero, the Alpha-powered machine, and Buddy Lazier. Let's go to Jackaroo.
Paul, you know how many times we've talked about earrings that many of the drivers' wives have bought from Teresa Fittipaldi and gone on to win? Well, Teresa, now most of the field has them. What she's introducing this time is a brand new necklace that goes around, and you certainly hope that's good luck for Emerson as well, and maybe takes him to victory lane.
Yeah, for sure.
The latest in fashions here on pit road, Paul.
Those earrings have been lucky for a number of drivers. Let's see what the necklace will do today for Emerson Fittipaldi as he starts this 500-mile run, 250 laps from the pole. The field now beginning the pace laps here at the Michigan 500. On board with Rick Mears as you look over his right shoulder. The purse over $1 million, 250 laps around the 2-mile high bank circuit, 500 miles. The race record held by Michael Andretti, set in 1988 at 180.6 miles an hour. That was a blistering pace. This year so far, the earnings, well, Arie Luyendyk with his Indy 500 win still at the top of the order. Then Fittipaldi, Rahal, Little Al, and Michael Andretti. In this race, a number of different chassis as usual as we continue to look back through the field. Lola's predominating. Penske's March. There's the breakdown of the different brands and the years of those cars and the engines competing here today. Chevrolet, of course, dominates here, and we'll discuss it a little bit later, but we expect that there will in fact be some more Chevrolet engines next year. The track, 2.5 miles around, 18 degrees is the banking. It's a very tough circuit. Bobby Unser, or 2 miles around. I think I said 2.5. Bobby Unser has already indicated that it's a very tough surface because the winters are so rough on the track here, and as the cars move through the corners, they actually slam to the ground, and when you bounce along the ground at 200 miles an hour, control is precarious at best. The front row begins to align now. The skies overhead are gray and leaden. There is a possibility of rain, but for the most part it seems to have gone away. The front row, the 2 Penske cars straddle Bobby Rahal, who is looking for a very strong start here today. He had hoped for a pole, but a leaking pop-off valve took that chance away from him during qualifying. Watching for the green flag, and it is no start. Nick Finoro gives it the yellow flag and says, we will not go this time around. Field straggly to the back, Bobby Unser.
Yes, it was, Paul. Just didn't suit the starters, didn't suit the officials, so they said, no, boys, you got to go again. The problem with that is they're using their fuel up.
And this lap will not go into the record book, so they'll begin the count next time around. There's the forecast for the day. Possible showers, cloudy at the moment. Nice temperature for racing, though. Good, comfortable temperature, good for the engines.
The drivers are really happy with this, Paul. You couldn't have a better day right now because I really don't think we're going to have rain, even though there is a slight chance.
This is the second time in the last 3 races that the start has been waved off by Nick Finoro, so it's obvious that these guys are getting very antsy and that the officials are having none of it.
Well, we ride with Rick Mears, and he says coming to a start or a restart, momentum is everything. Trying to get the roll from the point he is on the circuit right now. As we take a look back, that's from Bobby Rahal. They're lined up nicely now, and they start to pick up the speed once again. Emerson Fittipaldi, as the pole sitter, controls the speed of the race. They look all toward the starter now as he brings them down in a line. And we're racing. The 10th Michigan 500 is underway as Fittipaldi pulls just a bit ahead of Bobby Rahal. But Rahal goes to the high side of the bank. Sullivan falls in 3rd. Rick Mears is 4th. On the backstretch, it's still Fittipaldi. They come off at turn 2. A little dust at an entry road there. No problem on the course as Rahal tries to chase down Fittipaldi. He'll try to get inside him in turn 3. Rahal can't do it. Fittipaldi hangs on. And Emerson Fittipaldi, who jumped out to a lead at the Indianapolis 500, appears like he's going to do it again as lap number 1 goes into the record books with Emerson Fittipaldi, car number 1, the defending PPG IndyCar World Champion, out in front and pulling away. Now Rick Mears comes up to do battle with Bobby Rahal in 2nd place.
Now, often the drivers will be a little bit careful the first lap, Paul, because remember, other cars have been out there. We've had a lot of rain. They're not too sure about the racetrack, but obviously didn't bother Emil right away.
Bobby Rahal tries to hold off at charging Rick Mears. There's Rahal in that Craco STP machine number 18. Now, he had really hoped for a good performance in qualifying. It was not to be. He hopes for a better performance in the race itself.
Fittipaldi and Rahal winless so far this year. I can't tell you how important that is for these 2 drivers who are accustomed to winning races, winning lots of races, and to be this deep in the season without a win is tough on both of them.
Catch a glimpse of Mario Andretti down low as he chases Al Unser Jr. and moves around Danny Sullivan, who seems to be falling steadily backwards.
There's a place on the road down there on the racetrack. There goes Lyondike right
past Sullivan.
By Sullivan there. There's a place on the bottom I started to mention, Paul, that's really dry and fast sometimes. Mario's been here so many times he takes a gamble on.
Boy, no question there's something wrong with Danny Sullivan as he slows, and now it seems the 2 Porsches come up and straddle him. Michael Andretti comes up and gets around him. It looks like Danny's in trouble.
Yes, he does. As they came down for the start, everybody was even but Danny, and he was falling back. So most likely he has some sort of an engine problem. Most likely the pop-off valve going off, Paul.
Some debris on the circuit. You saw it there, looked like a plastic bag. If that gets in somebody's coolers, that'll end an engine very quickly.
Of all the drivers in this race, Danny Sullivan has the best stats of people competing in 500-mile races. If he fails today, that will hurt him, but he has the best average number of wins per start of any driver in this race.
But Danny Sullivan struggling with his car now, while Arie Luyendyk begins to move up, doing battle here with Michael Andretti.
Just a note on Sullivan, Paul. If the pop-off valve is jumping off the seat right now, which is probably the problem with Sullivan, he'll just keep dialing it back and then back off the throttle, let it get set, and then he can go again.
Is that something that they would anticipate being able to repair in a pit stop, though?
No, he can do it right on the racetrack. He can just adjust it right in the car, and I think that's probably what he'll do.
But will it run him down on power?
It will until he gets it fixed for sure.
All right, Michael Andretti, you're on board. Let's go to the pits. Here's Jack Arute.
Boy,
Paul, Danny Sullivan has radioed in to Chuck Sprague and the rest of his crew that the car is extremely unstable in traffic. In fact, it's very turbulent, moving back and forth. That's what they're huddled over here to try and determine what they should do to cure that problem.
All right, well, they have some options, Bobby Unser, as Al Unser Jr. comes around Rick Mears in a battle for third place. So now Rick Mears, who is traditional at setting a pace, he doesn't necessarily want to battle with somebody at the front of the field. We may see that Mears 500-mile race strategy that has proved so successful for him. But look, here comes Mario Andretti. So let's consider this, Bobby Unser. That's another Penske car right out of the same stable. If Danny Sullivan is having problems with turbulence, what about Rick?
Well, obviously, Rick doesn't go backwards at Michigan unless there's something wrong. Rick's a guy you can count on all the time, so they're going to have to do some adjustments in their first pit stop, Paul.
Interestingly, though, Bobby, we think of Rick as so successful on ovals, he's never won a 500-mile race here at Michigan.
There goes Michael pulling up alongside Rick Mears as well, and Michael will dust him off. Now remember that it's the teammate to Sullivan and Mears, Fittipaldi, that is leading this race. It's the third time this year that Fittipaldi has in fact led the opening lap. There's Roger Penske.
Yeah, Penske, the car owner, of course, of both Mears' car and Sullivan's. Mears started to go backwards just after the start at Indianapolis as well. It's as if at the beginning of these 500-mile races, they're finding the balance, the setup of the car, hard to achieve.
Take a look at Rick Mears as now we look head-on into his face as he moves around this track. The incredible concentration of a Mears. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, a problem in the handling department for Rick Mears, as you supposed as well. He's reported that the car is extremely loose. What he's done inside the cockpit, gentlemen, is adjust the front wing.
All right, so Rick Mears has some controls. I don't think the front wing is necessarily part of him, but he can change the sway bar as Arie Luyendyk comes around to Mario Andretti. So Arie Luyendyk is on the roll. The Indy 500 champion moves into fourth place.
Yes, he is. Arie, now remember, has not been too fast on the slow tracks this year, Paul, but he's been really fast, like at Indianapolis, the high-speed places. We're really looking for something good out of Arie today.
Bobby, what kind of adjustments could Rick be making in his car?
He would be making a front sway bar adjustment, but he can adjust both sway bars, the front and the rear, or called anti-roll bars. And that's what he'd be doing now. The rest of it will happen in the first pit stop.
One thing you can count on, though, Rick will not lose his cool under circumstances like this. He's fully aware how long the race is, how many adjustments are possible in the pits. We anticipate probably 6 to 7 pit stops, perhaps more. So he's got a lot of racing ahead of him. His consistency has brought him to where he is in the championship. He's not going to throw it away by doing something dumb here in the first few miles of this race.
We watch the 30 Domino's Pizza car of Arie Luyendyk. Now we come back up toward the front. Here is Bobby Rahal trying to hold off a challenging Al Unser Jr. for second.
Teammates, Paul. There goes little Al. Working on Rahal. He didn't quite make it. Let him know he's there, though.
And since you brought them up as teammates, is it bright for two guys on the same team to battle this close, this early in a 500-miler?
It's awfully early, but by the same token, little Al's been awfully confident, but Rahal has been the fastest guy in all the practice sessions at this track this year, Paul.
Well, Fittipaldi is setting a torrid pace at over 218.5 miles an hour. We are running now at 11 laps already complete in this 500-mile run, 22 miles, with Emerson Fittipaldi out in front.
Now, just so that people realize, 218 miles an hour is just about qualifying speeds, and that is with 40 gallons of fuel on board, a lot of weight.
On board Al Unser Jr. as now they begin to thread their way through traffic as he chases down his teammate Bobby Rahal. They both go under some other cars as they come around the course and continue their battle. Boy, look at that. He's coming down low on him, trying him everywhere he can.
We're only lap 12, Paul. That's hard racing at lap 12.
We talk about how tough the Michigan 500 is and how tough it is on machines. There you see is the two Andretti's battle, and they close down. Here comes Michael to the inside of Mario. Can he get Luyendyk as well? This is a fight for third place.
Very often they get a real good draft when you get that many cars together. It looks like Michael just got a good shot. Went right by at least his dad.
I tell you what, Michael is an absolute master at getting around this course with a good rhythm. Jan Bikus was the car, the 56 car. There is Teo Fabi. It's the Porsche car as it comes down pit road very early on.
Fabi had a vibration problem during the warm-up this morning. It takes so long to change some of the major components on that Porsche because of the way it is built. They were unable to change the engine. It could be something to do with that.
Very sophisticated machine, though, out in front. It is Emerson Fittipaldi. Remember, he led the first 92 laps in Indianapolis. He's out in front and trying it again. We'll be back. Back at Michigan. Michigan International Speedway, the Michigan 500, 17 laps are complete. Fittipaldi leads it. But right now, it is Mario Andretti right behind Bobby Rahal. Now, Rahal has been dropping back just a little bit. First, Al Unser Jr. got around him for second place, and then Arie Luyendyk came by and picked up third. Rahal right now runs in fourth, but they work their way through traffic, and Mario Andretti is trying him on the inside. Will he get past? They run down the backstretch, very close quarters alongside Scott Goodyear.
Make no mistake, this is extremely dangerous racing. These men at such close quarters, at such high speed on these bankings where the cars are so crushed down on their suspension, it's very hard to steer them and to make quick changes of direction.
Mario got around Rahal for fourth place.
You can just see what the traffic does. That's exactly what got Rahal. He got plugged right in behind the car. There went the Andretti's right by him.
So at the Michigan 500 now with 19 laps complete. Emerson Fittipaldi still out in front. The battle is for second place. It's this fight between Al Unser Jr. and the Indy 500 champion Arie Luyendyk.
At 220 miles an hour, Paul, traffic comes really quick to these cars. Just imagine 220 miles an hour, how fast you would close on somebody running, say, only 205 miles an hour.
The speed differential on the grid was over 15 miles an hour between the top qualifier and the 20th fastest qualifier.
And Sam, that's the Chevrolet versus the Cosworth that used to be so popular.
The problem is, at times the track looks as if it's very wide. You see even 3 cars abreast, but to the driver overtaking, you've got a very narrow lane where the car traveling at top speed has to be placed. There's really only one lane for a car traveling at its maximum speed.
250 laps the distance here. 21 now complete. Fittipaldi pulling away from the rest of the field as the battle continues. Mario comes down to the inside and battles with Al Unser Jr., but Al holds him off there.
Mario and Michael Andretti, Paul, are running very, very close together. Now just think, all that speed, and they just almost touched a second ago or a minute ago. That's father against son, son against father.
They ran this way during the latter half of the race last year, which they went on to dominate.
And that's carrying them forward as they battle with Arie Luyendyk. Al Unser Jr. is there as well. Look at Arie as he comes low. The fight continues. What a terrific battle at the front of this field.
The race has just barely started. We're seeing racing now that you normally don't see until the end of the race. Michigan sometimes makes the best racing, like I said before.
Michael Andretti tries Arie, and Michael comes past. At the same time, Al seems to be stuttering just a bit.
Both of them lapping A.J. Foyt in the black car. Now Luyendyk comes by Foyt on the inside.
So at the front of the field, the fight continues, and the fight now is between Michael Andretti and Luyendyk. It's a fight for second place. Al Unser Jr. has dropped back.
Put yourself in the cockpit of any one of these cars. You've got 500 miles of racing ahead, and yet the intensity, starting right from the beginning here, has been incredibly great.
Let's go to the pits. Here's Gary Gerald.
Paul, the intensity of the early racing has had an effect on Teo Fabi. Sam indicated they had a vibration in the morning practice session. That's not the problem now. They brought him in for 2 pit stops. They've made wing adjustments both times. They also are trying to change the ride heights, and the conversations continues with team manager Derek Walker. Bobby, who was second here a year ago, off to a very disappointing start today.
A lot of speculation continuing about what will happen within that Porsche team. An announcement here that Jim Hall will be back, the owner that took Johnny Rutherford to the win at the Indianapolis 500. He'll be back next year as a car owner, and he will have Chevrolet power for his machine. That part of the announcement too. And Jim Hall, they say, is talking with Teo Fabi to be the driver. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Paul, you're going to hear us talk on pit road all day about making wing adjustments, specifically the front wing. When we talked about Rick Mears' problem, we said he was going to adjust the left front wing. We met on a pit stop. See this wing here? It does have some movement to change the angle of attack. During a pit stop, they'll move a wing nut in here, make a twist, a turn, change the angle by just a tad. It'll completely change the handling characteristics. On this first series of stops, we could see many drivers and teams making those sort of adjustments.
And as Jack has pointed out before, those are just tiny, tiny adjustments that they're making at these speeds.
They can even change the rear wing adjustment during the pit stops, Paul. And a lot of the reason for this happening so early on is simply because it's been raining. It rained all day yesterday, and it totally changes the personality of this racetrack.
Well, it's contested at literally hundreds of miles an hour. It could be a change as simple as a 64th of an inch. It could make the difference between winning and losing.
And at 220 miles an hour, which is right exactly where they're running right now, it's like tuning a violin. The smallest little changes are monumental sometimes.
So this fight continues on the course as Arie Luyendyk now trying to hold off charging Al Unser Jr. And little Al seems to have dropped back, but now has found a comfortable pace.
It's often just like the stock cars. You have to figure out a way to run aerodynamically stable, especially this early on, and especially we know that the racetrack is different from what they were used to qualifying, and I'm sure that that's what little Al and Ray Hall and some of the others that have fallen back just a little bit are doing.
Give you an idea of how tough the problems are for Danny Sullivan, as there's Jeff Wood's car, slow on the race cars, and he's appearing to pull in with no power on that machine. To show you the difficulties of Danny Sullivan, who started on the outside of the front row, Fittipaldi has already passed Danny Sullivan and put him a lap down.
It's good to see Arie Luyendyk back performing as he did at Indianapolis. You see him there on the left of the screen because, curiously, after his great win at Indianapolis, he went into something of a slump. He found that the demands on him by the press and sponsorship and so on were so great that he was...
Yellow flag is out. No accident in the course.
Think of some Jeff Wood, Paul. He didn't make it into the pits.
So with Jeff Wood rolling to a stop, and you saw him climb out of his car, there he is. This might be an excellent opportunity for the cars to roll into the pits with 29 laps complete, and there, in fact, is the leader. Jack Arute is there.
Well, the leader of the Marlboro 500, Emerson Fittipaldi, brings his car onto service from Team Penske, led by Rick Reineman. Curiously, he has not complained at all about any problems with his car. We checked with Rick and the crew, and they said they would make no changes to the car during this pit stop. Taking on 4 tires. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
And Al Unser is in for routine service. Owen Snyder and the crew. And remember, this is the team that had the adventure with fire at Cleveland. They had a problem getting the nozzle engaged. They now get it in. It's already off the jacks, but they're nowhere near loaded with fuel. This will be a longer stop. They're fortunate it's under yellow. Now they start to roll and they stall the engine. Starter comes over the wall. And again, the yellow flag may be a huge savior for this team right now. They show their poise. Al refires. Now he's ready to go, and he's back on pit road. Just as Goodyear comes in. Goodyear locks up the brakes, and they almost hit each other. No contact. 2 close calls here for Al Unser Jr.
And Scott Goodyear has to wander a little bit. In fact, he rolls past his pit, almost rolls into another pit, and gets it back under power. He'll have to go around again because you can't back it up into your pit.
That's going to hurt him a little bit because he has to go clear back to the back of the pack or in the serial scoring, Paul. But main thing is that I was going to bring up is a little Al. It's not like him to kill his engine on taking off like that. Now, that could be an indication that they're rattled a little bit. They have to get things going.
Goodyear wasn't the only car to miss his pit. Here comes Rick Mears rolling in. Mario Andretti is in as well, and he had to make a trip around because he rolled past his pit. Nice view of the Penske organization going to work on Rick Mears' car.
Now they're changing tires on the car, Paul. This early, that means that they're changing the stagger, which means the handling, trying to get the car to handle good for the racetrack today.
16.5 seconds in and out for Rick Mears. Here was Mario on the way down, but they knew that he was in problems. You saw him try to get him stopped before his pit. They didn't get that job done, so Mario had to go out and come back in because they can't back those cars up into the pits. Mario Andretti lit the tires and headed out. So at the Michigan 500, the first yellow flag for a car stalled on the course with 31 laps complete, and Emerson Fittipaldi stays in the lead. We'll be back.
Nothing beats a winning team, pushing hard, reaching for the dream.
Woods' car cleared off of the course. The pace car, though, beginning to accelerate. Arie Luyendyk, there you see in that red, white, and blue number 30. His wife, Mika, watches from the pits, as so many of the wives do, and wearing her pair of lucky Fittipaldi earrings. But for the moment, the earrings are lucky for Emerson as he dominated the early going of this race. They come back toward the green flag, and we race once again in the Michigan 500. As Fittipaldi threads his way down to the inside. And Mario Andretti moves up past Luyendyk and picks up second place.
Remember, Paul, Mario had a few problems in his pit stop. One of the air wrenches wasn't working too well when they tried to change the tire. There's Michael right ahead of Arie Luyendyk.
He runs in second place. Arie Luyendyk slides back to third. Dale Fabi, of course, as they came back to the green, not part of that situation owing to the 2 stops that he had made into the pits. And Fittipaldi, with 35 laps into the record book, continues to dominate this race, followed by Michael Andretti, then Luyendyk, then Bobby Rahal, then Al Unser Jr., Rick Mears, Mario Andretti, Danny Sullivan, then Kevin Kogan.
Now, most of the cars have made some adjustments. Again, during the first pit stop, practically all of them as we watched. Rick Mears, right there in the yellow car, for example, took wing out. Took front wing out, which means that he was running loose. The rear end was twitchy before. So he should be better well balanced. He's always fast here. Now let's see if he gains.
Rick Mears runs in 6th place. Danny Sullivan was able to stay out under the yellow and get back on the leader lap, so that was very fortunate for Danny.
Remember that the last 5 races that these men have run have all been on road courses where speeds are like around 100 to 120 miles an hour average. You see Danny Sullivan there. He won one of those races. It's quite a different form of competition, and that's partly what makes the kart series so great. You see Arie Luyendyk there. To be back on these high-speed ovals, a completely different sensation.
Arie Luyendyk continues in his pursuit as the battle for second place continues. Occupied at the moment for Michael Andretti, but look at Arie Luyendyk as he just dusts Michael off and moves back into second.
Now let's keep another thing in mind. This is a 500-mile race, a long ways. Almost all the cars in this race will have 2 racing gears. One that you call kind of a cruise gear and another one that you call a race gear. And now, the guys right now, when they're running as hard as you see Arie Luyendyk doing, they're running in their race gear, whereas Michael Andretti's probably cruise gear.
Danny Sullivan into the pits. The crew fell on that car. They make a refuel on it, but that's what they would do anytime it comes into stop. But from the casualness, I'd say Bobby Unser, there's a little more to it. Sullivan still with problems. Let's go down to Jack Arute.
Well, just before he came onto pit road, he did radio to his crew that the car was creating the same sort of handling problems that they suffered from during the Indianapolis 500. They make some major adjustments to the wing. He is basically just going to take it back out after taking on fuel, but he's not at all happy about the handling of the car.
Well, in 32 seconds in the pits, remember, wheel bearings were a problem at the Indianapolis 500. Sullivan's let go and sent him into the wall.
Paul, that's exactly what I was going to bring up. The changes that they made to the front wings there, 1 turn on the left front and a half a turn on the right front, is insignificant for the problems that Danny is crying about. So he's really having a problem, or otherwise he wouldn't have come into the pits.
One of the things that Danny's team has in fact been worried about is keeping track of the wheel bearings. As you see, that battle for 3rd place goes past him with Michael and Rahal, and they've been monitoring the wheel bearing temperatures just as closely as they can.
And so that people understand why there's wheel bearing problems in the rear uprights, the bearings are laced very close together, and that's so that the upright takes up very little room in there because of the ground effect, so the air can go through there, Paul.
Bobby Rahal first won an IndyCar race back in 1982. He has won at least 1 race every year since then, and of course a couple of championships. So far this year he is winless. You can imagine how much this race then means to him.
Sam, Rahal has been a 2nd place guy all year. He's frustrated. He wants to win now more than I think I've ever seen him in his career.
Particularly because he has an inter-team rivalry with your nephew, Al Unser Jr. Al Unser just recently signed a big 3-year contract with the team, with Big Al's team. Rahal has not done something like that. He's very much a man who wants to make something start to happen for himself in this season.
And in this team, we don't have a number 1 driver and a number 2 driver. Both of them are equal. So you really see a lot of competition just between the 2 of them.
On board with Al Unser Jr. That competition, Bobby, it seems like it's been good for the team.
It has been. I think what it does is that the information that they get from each other really helps them.
At the front of the field, it's Arie Luyendyk that pushes his way around Fittipaldi, and the Indianapolis 500 champion picks up the lead. Fittipaldi may be in trouble here. He appeared to slow down coming off the corner.
Yes, and Arie Luyendyk, though, has been very, very competitive since we started this race. There's Emerson Fittipaldi, but Luyendyk has been very fast. I don't think it's been any different right here than it was at Indianapolis. There's something about this guy this year that says, hey, go fast on the high high-speed joints.
Well, that's the first time, though, that Arie Luyendyk has led here in the Michigan 500. And Luyendyk has not had the year that one normally expects from an Indianapolis 500 champion. He had a dismal time at the few races following the Indy 500, but now he seems back at his stride again. Fittipaldi drops to second place as Arie Luyendyk has the lead here at Michigan. Now 43 laps into the record book. 250 laps the scheduled distance. Now car 30, the Domino's Pizza Machine, is out in front. Here was the situation that developed. Luyendyk just on a good roll, Bobby Unser.
Yes, he is. He got a good slipstream. He whipped it right to the left of Emil. He's going by. He's got a good head of steam up, right down the straightaway.
Arie Luyendyk is not afraid to change lanes abruptly on this track. I've noticed that throughout the race, and he showed it then.
So out in front here at the Michigan 500 with 43 laps complete, it's Arie Luyendyk, followed now by Emerson Fittipaldi. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
500 continues.
Back at the Michigan 500, it's this man, the number 30 car, red, white, and blue, Arie Luyendyk, the Indianapolis 500 champion, who is out in front. But Emerson Fittipaldi is still hot in pursuit. In fact, just a second ago, Fittipaldi closed up, and there you see him again. And that's Bobby Rahal that is in, running in third place. His first, second, and third are right together. They try to string their way through as Fittipaldi forces his way alongside Luyendyk. Can he hold on the outside? He runs the high groove, and Fittipaldi says to Luyendyk, no, I'm going back to the front.
He had a head of steam up, but Paul, the important thing was it was three abreast. Emil went right in between them. That showed the determination that Fittipaldi has.
It also showed the confidence he had in Kevin Kogan, who was the car he went underneath. There are a lot of very high-quality drivers in this race, and very few of the lesser drivers. And that, I think, is why the race so far is as clean as it is.
Sam, I don't even think Kogan saw him coming. Emil came up through there so fast it looked like he was just really after it hard. Awfully early in the race for that.
Arie Luyendyk's car owner, Doug Shearson, is usually fairly placid as he watches his car circle around the track. The front of the field, this is a three-way battle for second place. They just worked their way past Tony Bettenhausen. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, interestingly enough, Paul Page, the two lead cars, Emerson Fittipaldi and Arie Luyendyk, have complained of no problems. They've made no adjustments. The major adjustment for Doug Shearson's team, though, came 2 days ago after they wrecked their car that they won the Indianapolis 500 with. They pulled their backup car off of the trailer, and they have put it out here, and they are running so well with it right now.
And remember, of course, it's their car that has those little gussets on that front suspension that are so far keeping it from collapsing onto the road.
All the Lolas do, Sam. The factory told them they should all do that.
Here is Michael Andretti as he challenges Bobby Rahal. But Rahal is able to hold him off. The lead of the race is still Fittipaldi, then Luyendyk, then Rahal. This is the battle for third place.
Now, most of the cars right now are probably running in their top gear, or what we'll call overdrive gear today, Paul. That's to conserve fuel, and yet they're all racing hard at it. Now, what they'll do is if they want to race, like Michael trying to go by Rahal, if he thinks it's important enough, he'll just pop a little shift. They can do it really quick because the gears are so close together, usually only 0.1 difference, and then that gives him a little boost for passing.
Michael Andretti darts down just a little bit to the inside. He's able to run a lower groove, but there's a slower car ahead. That's Sullivan once again as he struggles on this circuit. They're running at a blistering pace. 195.99 miles an hour is the race average. With 54 laps complete, we mentioned Sullivan. He comes back to the Penske pits again.
Lap speeds, Paul, 224 miles an hour. That is above the qualifying speed.
For Danny Sullivan, they come in and make a stop again. You can see they're working at the back of the car, and the way they're shaking the wheels, Bobby, is that wheel bearing concern?
They know that there's something wrong with the car. The wheel bearings is obviously the first thing they check. They're going to check the right rear, for example.
Let's go to Gary Gerald.
John Bushlag and the crew working at the right rear are looking for something inside the wheel. He puts a thumbs up. Now they look underneath. They've got both rear wheels off, Paul. And obviously the concern, something back there. I don't know if it's vibration. The engine is off. The car on the jacks. Long stop. Frustrating day thus far for Danny Sullivan, who had such high hopes. They continue to look. Now the rear wheels will go back on, and they'll refire to get him back. Paul?
And watch this as Michael down alongside Rahal, and Michael Andretti picks up third place from Bobby Rahal as that fight fight continues. They are racing all over this track. Still at the front, it's Fittipaldi. For the moment, Luyendyk has held off on his challenge, but not so for Rahal, as he comes right back to challenge Michael Andretti, and Rahal goes back around to Michael.
Right around the top of the groove. It shows you how much racing room that you have on this track. It's a beautiful racetrack. Remember, it's a little bit bumpy, but so far, it's not slowing anybody down.
It's wide, it's high banked, and the sun comes out for the very first time here today, so that's a good sign as well, and that'll pick up the spirits of these drivers and crews.
The most logical thing that happened was there is that Michael slipped in a little lower gear, went right by Rahal. Rahal said, hey, wait a minute, you can't do that to me. I'm going to show you, and came right back around.
Well, as we mentioned, Bobby Rahal feeling very strong as he continues his fight with Michael Andretti for third place. Luyendyk is second, Fittipaldi leads it. A disparaging day for Danny Sullivan at the Michigan 500. He's back in the pits again. They continue to work at the back end of the car. They're not going to give it up. They're going to try to keep him in the fight as best they can. His teammate Emerson Fittipaldi is leading, and he's turned laps as high as 224 miles an hour. In fact, he just cut one at 224.7 after 50 laps. Here's the rundown. Right now, Arie Luyendyk is running in second place. There's a nice battle going on between Michael and Rahal as they circle this track, and we're seeing a lot of fighting right at the front of this field.
Remember, Paul, 224 miles an hour laps now versus qualifying 2 days ago at 222 by Emerson Fittipaldi. That's an indication of how good our track is today, because of the cloud cover, the track is very cold, and there's just almost no wind at all.
All right, now it rained here all day yesterday, washed out any practice that they would have. They had to actually practice this morning. Did that contribute to making this track this fast and this good?
Yes, it does, Paul, because it washes the rubber and the oil or any debris that's on the racetrack off, makes the racetrack really crisp. I've never seen it better than what it is right now.
Let's go to the pits. Here's Gary Gerald.
Well, with Danny Sullivan, they continue a mystery check, and they continue to work around that right rear wheel housing. And remember, that's the wheel bearing that failed. Here's Rick Mears coming in, his teammate on the opposite side. If we can swing our camera here, we'll take a look at Mears coming in for what appears to be routine service. Jerry Breon, Richard Buck, right side of the car with fresh rubber. Fuel hoses engaged. Mears coming down off the blocks now and makes his move. And he is away. Sullivan continues to set here. They've checked the suspension, the upright. We were talking about that wheel bearing housing, Paul, and they had a sensor hooked to their telemetry in their computer. I can't help but wonder if maybe that still is something they're chasing, or if it's another type of a problem. They're too busy to talk, obviously.
While Sullivan still is in the pits, it was 15 seconds in and out for Rick Mears, but Bobby Unser at lap 64, that would have been a little early for your calculations.
That's definitely too early, and it's unscheduled pit stop, but it's going to fit into the time frame that he needs to. What he did is he needed to come in and get the car changed. It's a very good chance, a very good indication that maybe both of the two Penske cars have a similar type of problem, because Danny Sullivan is way too good a race driver just to be parking in the pits for his help.
At the front of the field, we keep an eye on Bobby Rahal, who runs now in fourth place. Third is Michael Andretti. Arie Luyendyk is in second, and Emerson Fittipaldi runs at the top of the field. On board now with Bobby Rahal. Mario Andretti and Al Unser Jr. have pulled up there from time to time to challenge with Rahal.
As we watch Rahal going down the road, people probably wonder what is happening to his vision with the helmet shaking that hard. What really happens, Paul, is it isn't bad. His eyes are looking way down the track. Look in the camera right now on your TV set and look way down the track. It's like a shock absorber. His eyes are nice and steady, even though the helmet's moving.
But if it looks exciting there in the cockpit, it is.
And here comes Michael in as Michael Andretti makes a pit stop. This one comes on lap 67, and Bobby Unser, that'd be a little bit closer to the schedule as they make a front wing change on Michael's car as well. Now they hold him. He sits there keeping the throttle blipped as they keep the engine running. Now he rolls back into the action, a little slow getting out of the pits. Finally, he hooks up, and here comes the leader. Emerson Fittipaldi rolls in for a stop. The Penske team is there, ready to service Fittipaldi as well. Here's Gary.
And watching Emerson hit those marks perfectly. Rick Reineman and his team now at work. Emerson was running those sensational laps, as Bobby was indicating, as high as 224 miles per hour in race competition. That's sensational. 13.2 seconds. Good stop for this Penske crew.
But not fast enough to keep Arie Luyendyk off his back. Luyendyk picks up the lead of the race, but Luyendyk is the leader on the course and should stop as well.
When you hear the clutch slipping, the engine revving up like Emma did, Paul. It's hard on clutches, in case you're wondering.
So there he is, the number 30 car. Arie Luyendyk works his way down under Scott Goodyear, one of the rookies having a great year this year in the Indy cars. And Luyendyk's crew has already laid out the equipment, so they are ready for him. Al Unser Jr. is in. Here is Mario Andretti in the pits. Camera mounted on the right front man's headset, so you can get an idea of this pit stop from the pit crew's point of view. Carl Dean is the chief on this car, and 14 seconds. Let's go to Jack Arute.
And Arie Luyendyk preparing to take his second stop. His teammate trying to wave him in. Interestingly enough, of the leaders, he is getting the worst fuel mileage. He locks up the left front tire. He is getting 1.7 miles as Bobby Rahal fits his car as well. Andretti and Fittipaldi are logging in at 1.9 miles per gallon. Seems to be a routine stop for Arie Luyendyk, taking on a full load of fuel. He is off and away.
Arie Luyendyk, whoa!
Tony Bettenhausen.
Tony Bettenhausen and Arie get very close together. I'm not so sure, Jack Arute, that they didn't touch. Did you happen to notice? It really looked like they were awfully close. We'll keep an eye on that car. There's Tony Bettenhausen's number 16 as he is in the pits.
Now remember, Paul, Tony Bettenhausen right there on the TV. He gets Chevrolet power next year. That should help this team a lot.
Jack Arute.
Well, it was very, very close, Paul, but the first indications are that no contact, no harm, no foul.
All right, so now Luyendyk goes back into the action. As we take a look at him coming out, what interests me on the stop is no tires got changed on this. Boy, look how close that is. Arie had to get on the brakes hard. And then, of course, he's got to work his clutch pretty hard to get it back rolling again.
Yes, they do. And it came at a place where the drivers are kind of blind, Paul. They can't see when it's just off and behind them to the right or the left like that.
So it's 71 laps complete. We are running under green. We've had only one at yellow, and that was while Jeff Wood was towed in off the race course. Back at the front of the field, it is Emerson Fittipaldi in the Michigan 500 being chased by Michael Andretti and Arie Luyendyk. We'll be back with more live from Michigan. On board, Rick Mears. He runs in 6th place 3 times. He's won at Indianapolis. He's never won the Michigan 500 as he works his way around this circuit. We've got plenty of racing on tap for you today. After the Michigan 500, round 2 of the International Race of Champions that pits some of the finest drivers in the world in equal and match cars against one another as that series, which has been absolutely astounding this year in the run at Talladega, continues. At this race, it's Emerson Fittipaldi, the IndyCars of kart, as Fittipaldi runs out in front. In 2nd place is Michael Andretti. Arie Luyendyk is 3rd. Bobby Rahal runs in 4th place. But it's Fittipaldi that dominates here. We asked him, did you ever think that you'd be with a team of this caliber and still be winless at this point in the race season?
18 and 30.
Well, I think in racing you can expect anything, but he's a little disappointed with the situation like Indianapolis that was looking good, and then we had some problems beyond our control. But that's the name of the game. We have to be here to compete, and we cannot let the spirit go down or the motivation goes down. And I'm very happy where I am now. I'm very happy the way things are looking now. And potential, the team is just fantastic. I mean, we are there.
Fittipaldi has not gone winless for an entire year since his first year in the IndyCars back in 1984.
He is a one-man conglomerate. He owns Citrus Groves, Hugo Boss clothing stores. He sells speedboats, auto accessories, especially wheels, which he loves to design. He owns Mercedes-Benz dealerships. Man is quite an extraordinary businessman, as well as obviously being a great racing driver.
2-time world champion in Formula One, defending IndyCar world champion. This is a nice little fight. Arie Luyendyk with Al Unser Jr. lined up right behind him, and Al's been chasing him down. It's a fight for 4th place.
And you can watch little Al was doing a pass on Luyendyk, and there was a car on the left and a car on the right that we saw just as they went through the camera.
I didn't see any indication at all as either one of these drivers lifting. On board with Al Unser Jr. Luyendyk lies just ahead.
It went from about a 3-lane to a 1-lane
Tony
in a hurry.
Bettenhausen with a problem as he runs slow on the course. I mentioned earlier that they announced a number of Chevrolet assignments that Chevy engines would exist on some new teams this year. This is one of them. Tony Bettenhausen will get a new Chevrolet engine. So will Scott Brayton.
He most likely will bring out a yellow, Paul, because I don't think he's going to be able to coast in, and he hasn't. There he is, sitting still, or almost still.
It's also expected that Bettenhausen will be running in Penske cars next year. That yet to be announced. Yellow flag comes out. That will slow the field. The yellow, of course, is because Bettenhausen has rolled to a stop at the edge of the course in a dangerous position. So caution rules on the racetrack once again. Emerson Fittipaldi will slow the field down, running out in front. We'll be back with more at the Michigan 500 after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Motorcraft energy conserving oil can help reduce fuel consumption. It can also reduce traffic. Motorcraft quality parts. Peace of mind from Ford.
Kellogg's Product 19 has 100% of 8 essential vitamins. To get this from Cheerios, you'd have to eat 4 times as much. Open wide. Count on 19. Product 19.
When it comes to brake repairs, some places give you a guesstimate. Midas gives you an estimate in writing, a thorough inspection, then a price that's right. At Midas, we do brake work, not guesswork. Nobody beats Midas. Nobody.
Now this is my kind of do-it-yourself project. Want to know any more? Ask Ace. That's what I do.
This 2-foot wooden step stool is just $4.99, and Ace Wasp and Hornet Killer works instantly, just $1.88.
Hey, let me tell you, Ace is a place for me.
Someday, too many men, too little time.
I would really like to go with you. Maybe we could go.
Go with both of them.
Life goes on. And take a peek inside total strangers' lives.
This is America.
And her funniest home videos. Then,
excuse me, sir, the escalator is now a quarter if you want to go up.
It's the runaway summer comedy.
I can't see.
It's Tim Conway's Funny America.
Up and down.
Sunday.
Major funding from the Beer Institute and Industry, Wine Institute, and Distilled Spirits Council.
Remember those promises about all that lottery money for schools? I wonder where it all went. Well, now they're at it again with this foolish proposition. It claims its purpose is to stop youngsters from abusing alcohol, but not one penny goes to schools to teach them how to do it. Read it yourself. It's not what it claims.
I have 175,828 miles on my Toyota truck, and we still use it for camping, skiing. 118,108 miles. Oh, Blue just goes and goes and goes, and we're always on call.
Call us if you and your Toyota truck have a 100,000-mile story.
Story? 6,059 miles. 335,809 miles. Top that.
How the state budget affects family planning in San Diego on 10 News at 5.
The Michigan 500 continues.
We should be coming back from the green flag at the Michigan 500 in just a few seconds. The second yellow of the day brought out to tow in Tony Bettenhausen, who rolled to a stop on the course. Here's the race summary after 75 laps. Fittipaldi the dominant power, but take a look at that average speed at 21 miles an hour faster than the current track record. And that's with 2 yellow flags. Now, it's dropped off just a little bit, but it's only dropped under this yellow to 198.2 miles an hour. 4 lead changes, 2 different drivers, Lyondike and Fittipaldi, and they have been battling all up and down the front 5, 6, 7, 8 positions on this field. It's been a whale of a race. In Danny Sullivan's pit, they've been working on his car. His teammate Fittipaldi out in front, running strong, looking just like he did at the Indianapolis 500. But there is his teammate Danny Sullivan as they struggle at the right rear of that car, making the substantive changes to what Bobby we're presuming is a wheel bearing.
Well, they've definitely got an out of alignment problem on the car because, again, Danny Sullivan doesn't complain unless it's serious.
Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Quick update on the fortunes of Michael and Mario Andretti. Michael complaining that his car is understeering. He wants more stagger on the next stop. He stayed out on the yellow. He's also complaining of the car bottoming. Ironically, his dad is also complaining of the same thing. So the bump's taking a bit of a toll. I don't think there's anything you do about the car bottoming. You just lighten up the fuel load as you use it, and then hopefully that gets better until the next stop.
Either that, Gary, or on a long pit stop, they can raise the springs up a little bit. But what's happened is that the speed is so much greater than what it was in qualifying that the cars are getting a lot more downforce in the corners and hitting the track.
Heading back toward the green flag now. It will be Fittipaldi, chased by Michael Andretti, Bobby Rahal, Arie Luyendyk, Al Unser Jr., then Mario Andretti. As look at the fight already developing as they come to green between Michael and Bobby Rahal. They fight for second place. Side by side, slower cars just ahead of them. They come past Goodyear. Kevin Kogan just up ahead of Michael. Rahal takes the high line. Michael forces himself down nice and low. Stays in second place for the moment.
Traffic is really a big problem there, Paul. You can see the way everybody's moving around. It's probably the most dangerous time of the race.
That's Kevin Kogan that lies just ahead as he picks up the new ride, the Stoops operation. Johnny Rutherford had that ride at the Indianapolis 500. And now Rahal comes down and inside. Nice to see Kogan in a car as well. Rahal, for the moment, broken off in his contact with Michael Andretti in the fight for second place. But behind Rahal, other cars now beginning to close down, including Luyendyk and Al Unser Jr.
The track conditions here, so different than they were in practice and qualifying, can only remind you of Indianapolis, where exactly the same situation prevailed. They had so many problems with the tires in the race.
Sam, we have seen more passing and more racing here at Michigan so far than we saw in all the Indy race. It's been an extremely good race and a fast race.
Well, we went back and looked at the serial scoring chart of the Indianapolis 500. Only about 19 passes on the racetrack, and the most significant one at lap after 107 was the pass for the lead. You saw it with Bobby Rahal as he had to give way to Arie Luyendyk. Well, you're on board with Bobby Rahal now. He's in second place, hoping not to give way here. In fact, he hopes to catch Emerson Fittipaldi.
There was only about 20 laps left in this segment of fuel to show you how competitive it is. Nobody, with the exception of Rick Mears, stopped for fuel because they can't afford to go back in the serial scoring. It's been so hard to pass and so competitive.
You see Bobby Rahal's helmet bouncing around there. Now we take a look at Rick Mears. There are tremendous forces working on these drivers. Super Speedway ovals are often a mechanical test, but they also take their toll on a driver as well. In this pit pass, Jack Arute takes a look.
We've talked many times about the G-forces that a driver pulls inside the cockpit of an IndyCar. Now, at Michigan International Speedway, through the corners, they can pull anywhere from 2 to 2.5, possibly as much as 3 Gs. Now, what is a G? Well, one gravity is actually what you and I walk around on Earth feeling. If you go into a corner, though, and you pull 2 Gs, you've in essence doubled the pull of gravity. Therefore, your weight would be double. Now, in the case of a driver's head, we've done some research and found that the human head weighs approximately 10 pounds. So with some apologies to my colleague Nelson Burton Jr. in the Professional Bowlers Tour, we've taken this 10-pound bowling ball to illustrate what pulling 2 Gs on the side of a driver's head would feel like. Very simple. Just attach the bowling ball, and you get a good indication of the effect that you can have on the side of your head and on your neck muscles if you try and do that for 500 miles. Now, what some teams do is they actually attach another strap on the other side of the helmet to offset the pull of the Gs. Now, that pulls underneath your arm, but it keeps the head somewhat straight up and doesn't put as much strain on the neck muscles. Now, Mario Andretti and Michael Andretti's team have gone one step further. They've added some simple rubber padding on the side of the cockpit onto which both Mario and Michael can lay their head when they hurtle through the corners here at Michigan at over 200 miles an hour.
Well, as you can see, the strain in racing is both physical, as you see 2 drivers, Mears and Unser, in their cockpits, but it's also emotional, too, because of the immense risk-taking and the hopes and fears that go into part of every race. The result, your heart rate inside a car is apt to be as much as triple what it would be resting. So you might be looking here at Al Unser Jr. with a heart rate of up to 170 to 175 beats a minute as he's driving the car.
That was a good thing that Jack Arute showed us, Sam. But what it shows you, watch little Al, is it pulls. Your head is trying to go to the right or to our left, but it pulls it down on the left side of it, our right. Now that pulls the muscles or the bones right together. When the race is over, it's hard to believe how sore a race driver's neck can be.
And here you can see at Michigan as well, if you look over the right shoulder of Al Unser Jr., they use pads as well. And by the end of the race, many of the drivers are just literally leaning up against those pads and letting the pads support the driver's helmet. In fact, the cover on that pad appears to be suffering a little bit from wind damage. By the way, Roberto Guerrero, the Alpha Powered, now in his brand new Lola, started 25th, is up to 12th. A very respectable run today. There's the leader of the race, Emerson Fittipaldi, averaging 196 miles an hour. His wife, Teresa, watches. Will Emerson Fittipaldi score his first win of the year? As she works Fittipaldi around the track. In second is Michael Andretti. Bobby Rahal is third. Arie Luyendyk fourth. Then Al Unser Jr. We'll be back with more live coverage. Live at the Michigan 500. I'm Paul Page with Bobby Unser, Sam Posey, Gary Gerald, and Jack Arute. In 3 weeks, for the very first time through the streets of Denver, Colorado, it will be the IndyCars, and we'll have coverage for you right here on ABC. Right now, we still have the Michigan 500 under incredible contest. Out in front is Emerson Fittipaldi. For the moment, most of the front battles have broken off, and Fittipaldi runs alone. He's setting a blistering pace as you ride on board with Rick Mears. Mears runs in 7th place, but the leaders have been averaging at 197.1 miles an hour, by and far away the fastest 500 in history, and they're doing it despite 2 yellows, not for accidents, but for cars that had to be towed off the circuit. This is a fight now for 6th place. Mario Andretti occupies it at the moment, and Rick Mears is chasing.
And for those that just turned in, Paul, that average speed comes about by speeds 224 miles an hour during the race. 2 miles an hour faster than qualifying.
Rick Mears won the opener at Phoenix. He hasn't had that great a year since then, despite the fact that he stayed solidly in the points and led from time to time. But Mears has not led a race since that Phoenix opener. Fittipaldi, on the other hand, dominated the early part of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. And there is Rick Mears. You run on board as he got his way past Mario Andretti. So Mears now trying to move forward.
Mears on this track a few years ago set the single fastest lap ever turned at a racetrack with an IndyCar at 235 miles an hour. That was with no boost restrictions and just 1 lap. It gives you an idea how fast they can go.
All right, let's go to the pits, get an update from Jack Arute.
Well, let's update you on Emerson Fittipaldi's 2 teammates. Danny Sullivan, he's been on pit road for a long time. They've changed half shaft, CV joint, the rest of the suspension components on the right side. Rick Mears, we talked with his team, with his crew chief. Richard Buck says they have finally, they think, solved the handling problem. The car is no longer loose. Now they're out of sequence during pit stops. They feel when the leaders pit in the next 3 or 4 laps, they will be able to pick up the pace and get back in the lead serial. Another thought for the 4th place runner, Arie Luyendyk, complaining on the radio in just about the last 3 laps that a front tire is beginning to wobble, show some vibration. Pit stops can come none too soon for that Dutchman.
So an update on several cars from Jack Arute as we watch Arie Luyendyk, and the pit stops do any time now, Bobby.
Let's keep in mind on the pit stops that Rick Mears has about 20 laps more to hunt for that yellow that could happen, that could put him way ahead if it does happen. So Rick may not be as far out of sequence as it might look at the moment. As far as Arie, a lot of them should be coming in within 1 or 2 laps, I should think.
On board with Michael Andretti, due for a stop here as he comes down in the pits, begins to gear down, and Gary Gerald waits for him.
And indeed we do. The Newman Haas team waving on pit road. Ed Natman, the team manager, with that pole out over the wall, waving him into place. Here's Michael perfectly on target as he just floats into a nice stop, and in that rhythm that becomes such an important part of a 500-mile race, the Newman Haas team goes to work. Michael was complaining of bottoming and understeering. We look, no front wing adjustment. Fuel is in, off the jacks. He's rolling in just over 14 seconds. Good stop. Let's go to Jack Arute.
And Gary Gerald, right now, your leader, presents his car on pit road. Rick Reineman and Team Penske about to service Emerson Fittipaldi from Sao Paulo, Brazil. They're going to change all 4 tires. Now coming off, taking on 40 gallons of methanol. Still making no major chassis adjustments to the wings. Fittipaldi resting comfortably in the car. They drop the jacks, and he is off and away very quickly.
But with that stop, Bobby Rahal picked up the lead of the race, and there he is working down the backstretch. Rahal out in front, being chased by Luyendyk. Stops coming under green now.
And Ray Hall should be coming in pretty quick himself. Now, this is when Rick Mears, who we got to watch for, is looking for yellow. If something were to happen, the track goes yellow, he'll be in a sequence all his own, Paul.
Bobby Rahal just cracked the last lap at 223.3 miles an hour as Al Unser Jr. comes into the pits. Little Al running in 4th place as he makes this stop. All 4 tires come off of the Gallus Craco car. Mario Andretti also in. Looking at Carl Dean's camera mounted on his headphones as he changes the right front. Mario Andretti was running in 7th place as he rolled into this stop under the green, and the team pushes the car back as Bobby Rahal comes in.
And slightly out of breath, Paul, after the long run from Andretti's, but here's Rahal, and again, everything looking smooth for this team. A man who 4 times this year has been a 2nd place finisher, bitterly disappointed that he didn't win the pole, but now focused, trying to get a 500-mile victory. He engages the gears, and he's away, not particularly fast, but they got their job done, and he's back to work on the course.
14.7 seconds, not bad at all. So Ari Luyendyk, the number 30 car, runs in the lead here at the Michigan 500. Being closely chased, and Ari Luyendyk should be due for some service as well. So we've had a lead change once again. We take a look at the running order. This is after 100 laps. We're actually at the 109th lap in this race, and the average speed is back up to 198.14 miles an hour. The all-time 500-mile race record of any kind set by Bill Elliott in 1985 at Talladega at 186.288 miles an hour. We're well above that, and the speed is climbing again. This 198, remember, is with 2 caution periods. No accidents so far with 109 laps complete. We're approaching the halfway point here in the Michigan 500.
Well, we are, Paul. As we watch the cars go around, I just watched Rick Mears drive right around Little Al. Excuse me. Of course, remember, Little Al had just pitted with a full load of fuel. Rick Mears, who's got about a half a load of fuel, went right on by him.
The Team Shearson crew has the tires laid out, anticipating a stop by Ari Luyendyk, and Jack Aruta's there.
Paul, they've determined that they are going to make an adjustment on the front wing to try and solve the minor vibration problem that Ari Luyendyk is having. A crew member putting a turn, a little bit of wing in the left front. Luyendyk revving the engine. They are checking the tires. They have changed the tires, completed their work, now making sure that they take on a full load of fuel. They've completed their work, and he is off and away in 15.4 seconds.
And with Luyendyk stopped, Emerson Fittipaldi picks up the lead once again. So Luyendyk comes back into the action, but he's fallen steadily backwards. Will come out of the pits in 5th place. Michael Andretti's in 2nd. Bobby Rahal is 3rd. Al Unser Jr. is 4th. And then Luyendyk. The leader of the race, of course, is Emerson Fittipaldi. He's been the dominant force. He started on the pole here. We'll be back with more of our live coverage of the Michigan 500. And 14 laps are complete and running at a blistering pace. 197.9 miles an hour. The pole sitter Emerson Fittipaldi, who led in the early going, has only given up to Ari Luyendyk, but right now he is back in front. They've just completed a series of pit stops, and for the moment Fittipaldi has about a 12-second lead over Michael Andretti. It has also been an incredibly safe race. We have had 2 caution periods, but neither one of those for an accident, both for toe-ins, once on Tony Bettenhausen's car and once on Jeff Wood's car. So Bobby Rahal runs in 3rd. Rick Mears is 4th. Al Unser Jr. is 5th. With his stop, Ari Luyendyk has dropped back, and Mario Andretti is lined up just behind Luyendyk.
Over half of the race done, Paul. Emmo has really controlled the thing from the very beginning. Turning speeds, as we've said earlier, 224-mile-an-hour laps, and not making any big car changes. Now, the interesting thing about that is both of Penske's other cars, this one right here, Rick Mears and Danny Sullivan, have had handling problems all the way. Rick Mears, who's the king of the ovals, has been running in 6th and 7th place most of the day.
Rick Mears' pit crew isn't bad as well. The team of Rick Mears leads in the Texaco Haviland pit crew competition by only a few points over the team of Al Unser Jr., with both teams tied in the bonus cash awards earned. The top 10 qualifiers at 6 selected races are timed during the race from pit entrance to pit exit as Mears closes on Bobby Rahal. Then they total up the time, and at the end of a race, it's a $5,000 award to that pit crew. And at the end of the year, some big money for those teams.
These two men battled for supremacy all through the 1980s, that decade. Finally, Rick Mears won one more race during that period of time than Bobby Rahal.
And did so, in fact, on the very last race of the decade.
And it was a road race, which it wasn't thought that he could win.
Teo Fabi struggling today. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, we saw Teo in the early stops trying to get a balance on the car. What ended up being the final problem, Teo, or were they able to diagnose it?
No, not yet. They are checking the car now, but obviously something went wrong after a couple of laps on the race.
You had run it well over 220 miles per hour. You were over 220 in practice this week. I think you and the team thought you had a good chance to win this race.
I think we had the new engine, which is very strong, and I think it's unfortunate we had some chassis problem today, but I think by Denver we're going to be able to compete for the lead.
We look forward to it. Thank you, Teo.
Thanks.
All right, Paul.
Rick Mears, of course, making his stop out of sequence, and he stay on the lead lap as he comes in. Richard Buck and that team go to work on the Pennzoil car. And around comes Fittipaldi, so Rick Mears is going to fall behind once again.
And Paul, there's no chassis adjustments going to that car right now. That should mean that Rick's got it feeling as good as he thinks he's going to get it today. And he was out of sequence with the other cars, but he's right on spot target for himself. He was supposed to be in at lap 117, that was 118.
Brilliant stop in and out in 14.5 seconds, but still he falls behind the pace of the race. His teammate Danny Sullivan, by the way, finally gets under power again and is back into the action.
Mears has finished every race that he has entered this year, finishing only one of them out of the top 10. That's how consistent he's been.
So back on board with Rick Mears, who falls to 6th place, 1 lap behind the leader, his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi. The top of the order is Fittipaldi, then Michael Andretti, then Bobby Rahal, then Al Unser Jr., then Arie Luyendyk. They all run together on the lead lap. And they are running just an incredible pace, still up, and it continues to climb again as A.J. Foyt, the winningest driver in IndyCar history, makes a stop. A.J. running in 9th place as he rolled down into the pits for this green flag stop for A.J.
His best finish of the year so far, 5th.
17 seconds in and out for A.J. Foyt. 198.99 miles an hour, the average speed of the race, as we are approaching the 250-mile mark in the Michigan 500. The leader, Emerson Fittipaldi, chased by Michael Andretti. We'll be back with more live coverage after this, a message and a word from our ABC stations.
14.
A whole new complexion with 2 engines gone. Look at Bobby Rahal. As Bobby Rahal comes up and comes around Michael and now moves into 2nd place, chasing his own teammate.
All 3 in identical cars, Paul. Lola Chevrolets. The Penske's have fallen by the wayside. Very sad to see Emmo.
Here comes Michael back along the inside of Bobby Rahal. The fight continues for 2nd. Al Unser Jr. is out in front. Rahal got Michael. Now Michael comes back and takes Rahal.
Now, we talked a little bit early and thought maybe the teams would be.
Look at this. Here comes Rahal again. Wow.
Twice a lap. That's good racing. I don't think we've ever seen racing this good before here in Michigan.
Yeah, but Bobby Unser, you're worried about Chevy engines now.
Well, the worry is that you can obviously tell the guys are running them just as hard as they can. There comes Michael back again. That's
Michael down below Rahal. The fight for 2nd place. That's Michael Andretti.
And Al Unser Jr. not pulling away in the lead.
Now it's time to see if Rahal's as stubborn as we think he is. There he comes back by Michael. That's all drafting. He gets a little draft, they shoot back by. Now, if they don't blow their engines, they could go into the last of the race like this. What I started to say is that we figured maybe the teams would start doing a little bit of rethinking about how lean they run the engines, because it would appear that they're burning pistons on the Chevrolet engines, probably because the air temperature outside is warmed up and making the cars run a little bit lean. So they've either rethought it or the guys have richened them up now, because they certainly are not slowing down.
Let's go to the pits. Here's Jack Arute.
And it's a very dejected Emerson Fittipaldi that has come to pit road. Emmo, no warning.
Well, Jack, the car was beautiful. It was well balanced. Everything running smooth. I was running 6th gear. I mean, everything was beautiful. I mean, from the beginning of the race, I didn't have to touch on the car.
What about the difference, though? You qualified at 222. You ran at 225 miles an hour. Might you have had maybe the wrong choice of gear in the car?
Oh, well, I don't think so. I was running the maximum revs. I got to 12.3. That's still what should be the limit of the engine. The car was just beautiful. It's taking flat most of the laps all around. It's a shame.
Just not your year in 500 milers.
Well, I hope it turns around and I can get a win soon.
He needs one.
At the front of the field, it is Al Unser Jr. who has assumed the lead. Bobby Rahal is second, Michael Andretti third. And just behind these two cars is the yellow Pennzoil car. You got a glimpse of it there for a second of Rick Mears as we go through the running order after 150 laps. And Rick Mears is one lap down, but he is in striking position should anything happen, and running just as fast as he can to try and get back on the leader lap and get back in this fight.
And he's back in the same sequence as the other guys as far as pit stops go, so he's got an even chance now, and it looks like he's got some of his handling fixed.
The battle for the championship has intensified between Al Unser Jr. and Michael Andretti. And it's interesting that back in 1969, their two fathers also battled for the championship. The win going back then to Mario Andretti.
Talking about the RPM, Paul, Emmo says he was turning 12,300 RPM. Now, in talking to a lot of the drivers and the mechanics yesterday, most of them told me that they were going to try, in order to finish this rough 500 miles, going to try to run like 11,700 RPM. The racing gear would be like 12,300. Now, it's obvious with Emmo, he ran the car really hard, and we saw 225 miles an hour laps during the race.
Look at Rick Mears there as he's coming back, trying to get his lap back. Not a pass for position, but it gives you an idea of how torrid a pace he runs.
Yes, and he's obviously, it's only a small distance to the end for these cars. They're running them as hard as they can. Everything has to go to the wind. Now, if one guy does it, the other guys have to do it, and that's what I was mentioning that Emmo's done all day. He's really, like you say, raised the price of poker.
Just remember as we watch Michael Andretti at the wheel there that he has won 2 out of 3 of the last Michigan 500. So he brings a kind of confidence, an aura into this race that the other men don't have.
And keep in mind, there's another pit stop yet, Sam, so we have a lot of interesting things yet to happen.
Al Unser Jr., Bobby Rahal right behind, a fight within the Gallus-Craco operation for the lead. Two teammates. There's Rick Gallus, one of the two partners in this team. Maury Crane's the other. Gallus stays on top of the radio with his driver, Al Unser Jr.
Gallus returned from a race back in the early 1980s.
Here comes Rahal. Here comes Rahal. Sorry, Sam, but Rahal made a try right there. Whoa. Almost had him, too.
Well, the success of Craco Gallus right now is just where I was getting at. Rick Gallus came back from a race in the 1980s with 2 cars so crumpled up that all that was left of them were the steering wheels. Now, 10 years later, the pride he must feel as he sees this right here.
But, Sam, remember, Rick Gallus is a very close friend of mine, and he's going to have gray hair watching his 2 cars running 220-plus miles an hour that close together.
Here comes Rahal with another try on his teammate, and this time he gets past as Bobby Rahal picks up the lead. They ran the last lap at better than 220 miles an hour. Now, that's not the 225, the blistering pace set a little bit earlier by Emerson Fittipaldi, but it's still an incredible average at 191.3 miles an hour.
2 words used to describe Bobby Rahal: resilient and relentless. And those words were used to describe him by his father.
And look, right behind little Al, that is Rick Mears, as he's actually running faster than the leaders, trying to get around first little Al, and then Rahal, and then Mears will be on the leader lap and back in the fight. And should a yellow come out for whatever reason, Rick Mears will close right up with the leaders.
And remember, Mears is the king of the ovals. There's nobody here that has as much experience and is as ruthless on the ovals as Rick is. And we know his car is identical to Emmo's. He should have gotten it working by now. So let's see what he does.
So the Penske hopes are pinned on the number 2 Pennzoil car for Rick, looking for his first win here at the Michigan 500. On board with Rick as he tries to run down first and second place. Occupied right now by the Gallus-Craco operation. Scotty Brayton, the Amway number 22 car, was running in 8th place prior to coming off of the course, is now slowing down just a bit. In fact, they've got a whole group, the Amway headquarters, not that far from here. They have a card section that on the parade lap held up their cards to spell out "Good luck, Scott." Well, he wishes he had some right now. Out in front, though, Bobby Rahal leads Speaks Al Unser Jr. Then Michael Andretti. Rick Mears is forging his way through this field. We'll be back.
Le Mans, the world's most famous 24-hour endurance race, and the scene of a major triumph for Jaguar and Goodyear. For both Goodyear and Jaguar, it was a double triumph. First and second at the 24 Hours of Daytona in February, and now, first and second at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Superior performance. It's why Jaguar chooses Goodyear, and it's why we say the best tires in the world have Goodyear written all over them.
The world's greatest float maker will now demonstrate how to make an A&W root beer float. First, the ice cream. Next, the rich, creamy A&W root beer. Now his assistant will make an equally delicious A&W cream soda float. The ice cream. The A&W cream soda. An A&W float. It's a great treat for you, your family, or a flock of friends.
What you got there, Johnny?
Nothing, honey.
I think you're lying, Sugar, but I like the way you do it.
Kellogg's Nut and Honey Crunch.
I love this.
It's nothing, honey.
I love it anyway.
Kellogg's Nut and Honey Crunch.
What do you call it?
Nut, honey.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't need an egg.
You love the honey, you love the nuts.
Nut and honey taste in flakes or oat grain O's.
Roxanne, what's keeping you?
Nothing, honey.
Kellogg's Nut and Honey.
I told you not to call me that at work.
Crunch.
I just read something new. If your athlete's foot won't go away, you could have more than athlete's foot. You could also have a secondary yeast infection. That's right, yeast. It burns and itches just like athlete's foot. To solve this problem, you need Mycotin.
Only Mycotin cures both athlete's foot and secondary yeast infections with myconazole.
Oh, thanks.
So why treat only half your problem?
Step up to the cure. Step up to the Mycotin.
We're back live at the Michigan 500. Coming up next, it will be round number 2 of the 3-race series of the International Race of Champions. That series that pits equal cars, some of the finest drivers in the world. The International Race of Champions. That'll be coming up after our live coverage here of the Michigan 500. The race here, well, Bobby Rahal is running out in front. There is John Andretti slowing down. Remember, he lost a wheel assembly a little bit earlier, came around, got into the pits. They put a new wheel and tire on his car, but this appears to be an unscheduled problem for the only Porsche remaining in this race, and a team that there are a lot of questions being asked about as they come to the end of the season. The very real possibility that Porsche may not continue their IndyCar effort, though Derek Walker told us there was some good news that Porsche kind of reaffirmed their belief in the IndyCars about a week ago. Let's hope that that is true and they stay in competition here. Out in front it is Bobby Rahal. Al Unser Jr. is in second. In third place is Michael Andretti, a 2-time winner. This is the 4th place car, a lap down, but trying to run down the leaders. It's Rick Mears, the lone hope of the Penske organization here at their own track. You want to know, does Rick Mears know this track? Well, remember, he set the world's closed course record, 239 miles an hour here a couple of years ago. Slowing down now the M car, that's Randy Lewis. And that will bring out a yellow flag. So the cars will head for the pits. This comes right on a perfect time, wouldn't you say, Bobby?
Yes, it certainly does, Paul. They'll be able to go here to the end after this. That means like a trophy dash right to the end, flat out for them.
So Bobby Rahal, the leader of the race, as both Rahal's crew and Al Unser Jr.'s crew waits, and Gary Gerald is there too.
And we've got a look at Bobby Rahal as he comes in front of us here, and the team goes to work, and we're looking up the side, and we can see Al Jr. 1 pit away. Both teams working in tandem for the Gallus Craco team. Little Al to our right, Bobby Rahal to our left. We've got Unser down off the jacks. Rahal is down, and he's away close to 16 seconds. Now here's little Al rolling out right behind him as they head for turn number 1.
So the leaders, the same team, simultaneous stops. Doesn't get any better than that. Gallus Craco can be happy with that one. And remember, for little Al, that's the crew that was involved in that fire. 4 injuries at Cleveland, but they've been back crewing that car. Here is Rick Mears, who, if he can stay out, will stay on the leader lap, get his lap back. He comes into the pits, though. Timing for this pit stop, Rick Mears prepares to roll his way down.
Again, it's a different sort of Rick Mears this year, a man who has been running very, very consistently on road courses as well as ovals, Jack.
Let's go to Jackaroo.
Well, Paul, Michael Andretti had assumed that he would come in the last time around, but his entrance to pit road was blocked. He was a little bit livid on the radio. He talked to Ed Nathanson. They are calling for the directions of lifting the wing up just a bit. They were making a change on the left front wing. They've changed the right front wheel. They had a problem there. They've taken on the fuel. A good thing as Rick Mears goes by that this is under caution because it was lengthy.
Very lucky it was under caution. That could have cost them dearly.
Better than one they had last year, though, when Michael Andretti spun, leaving the pits as another car cut across his bows. Mind you, he went on and won the race.
Obviously, there was some confusion right there, Sam. They wanted a wing, or Michael wanted a wing change, and so there was a little confusion on getting it.
Well, at the Michigan 500, 193 mile an hour the average. We'll be back with more.
Kawasaki just made it easier for couples to go steady. Right now, during our 2-up, 0-down promotion, you can get Kawasaki's Tandem Sport Jet Ski Watercraft for 0 down and no payments for 90 days. See your participating Kawasaki dealer before it's too late.
My athlete's foot kept flaring up. Put it out, it just flare up again. Then my doctor told me about Tenactin. It cures recurring athlete's foot. Use it regularly. It'll keep the fire from coming back.
Tenactin puts the fire out for good.
A Motorcraft spark plug has to fire 500 times a minute. Over its life, that's a spark 5 miles long. Shouldn't you install that peace of mind? Motorcraft quality parts from Ford.
Let us embark on an adventure in hairstyling.
Try some new summer fun, hon.
Let me explain the Lamar experience. Sight, scent. Before he even gets to the washing set, he'll have her doing a wow.
New Attitude previews Wednesday after Doogie Howser.
Airport, please. I got a 9 a.m. flight.
No problem.
Good.
What airline?
Alaska.
Alaska. First time Alaska?
Yes, it is. But airline never take off on time.
First time Alaska.
When Alaska Airlines says a flight will leave at 9 a.m., we do our best to make sure it does.
I tell you, they never leave on time.
So usually the only time you'll have to wait for a plane is when you miss one.
What's the world coming to?
It's the DOW Dow multi-million-dollar below cost and store-wide sale. Huge savings for you. Many specially marked items priced below Dow's actual invoice cost, plus car stereo speakers up to 76% off. Walk-alongs up to 50% off. Telephones up to 55% off. Car stereo amplifiers up to 50% off. Home stereo speakers up to 50% off. Compact disc players up to 51% off. Color TVs up to 50% off. VHS VCRs up to 53% off. Camcorders up to 58% off. There's more DOW Dow.
How the state budget affects family planning in San Diego on 10 News at 5.
We're back under caution at the Michigan 500. 182 laps are complete. Bobby Rahal under the caution is our leader. Al Unser Jr. is second. You ride on board with the third-place car, Michael Andretti. His dad, Mario, is right behind him. And Rick Mears did not get his lap back. Runs in 5th place. He is 1 lap behind the leaders. Let's go to Jackaroo.
And Paul, Roger Penske has been on the radio with his driver, Rick Mears, and he's cautioned him as much as we need to get that lap back. Don't punish the car. So Rick Mears and Roger Penske have assumed that if they have to, they won't punish the car to get that lap back. Let's update you, too, on Michael Andretti's situation. We told you that he was quite upset about the fact that his entrance to pit road was blocked. Do you know what was blocking him? Safety 2 from CART. Let's go back upstairs.
All right, we're set to go green once again. Average speed of the race, despite this yellow, at 193.2 miles an hour, 13 miles an hour faster than Danny Sullivan's record set back in 1988. And as the green comes out, Bobby Rahal maintains the lead. Al Unser Jr. is right there and chasing, now charging down to the inside, trying to get around his teammate. But Rahal uses the high line just a little bit more effectively.
Had a good head of steam up. Had his turbocharger lit, making a lot of power right then. So little Al didn't quite get by it.
Well, he may not be using the car up, but he's using it very quickly because Rick Mears is right in behind this fight. There is Rick. Remember, he is running one lap behind the leaders.
As we see the two Gallus cars running together, 5 years ago, the direction was for single-car teams. Total focus on a single driver, with the exception of the Penske team. But today, multi-car teams have become pretty much the norm. That way, you can amortize the development costs, which are considerable in racing these days, and you get a kind of healthy competition between the two drivers. Now, Al Unser Jr. was very clear he did not want Bobby Rahal on that team, but I think Rahal has energized the team.
Yeah, he's put some dynamics in there. The race summary after 175 laps, you can see we still have this incredible pace. 8 lead changes among 4 different men and 4 cautions now for 23 laps. And if, in fact, the team concept of multi-cars does work, it is Craco, the Gallus-Craco organization at the front of the field, positions 1 and 2, and then the Newman-Haas team, the Andretti's, run in 3 and 4. And there is Carl Haas with that characteristic cigar, unlit because of the pits, but he just studies his way around lap after lap, hoping his cars make it lap after lap. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Tough day for the Porsche team all the way around. We talked to Teo Fabi earlier. John Andretti just came in. This is the HUD from the right front suspension. Houses the wheel bearing. He lost the wheel earlier, then they lost the wheel bearing. It's still very hot. It's been off several minutes. They've changed it. They've got him back out. He was running as high as 7th, but a long afternoon, obviously, for the youngest Andretti in this field, Paul.
Yeah, just reach down and pick that up, Gary.
No, thank you.
And, Paul, I just want to explain real quick that in my calculations on the fuel and the pit stops, I was copying Indianapolis, which is 200 laps around. Michigan race, 500 miles. Smaller racetrack is 250 laps. So there will be one more pit stop somewhere around 215 miles, or excuse me, 215 laps.
Bobby, your memory is going. You might as well admit it.
Well, Bobby won more races there. He never won the Michigan 500.
He just forgot about 50 laps.
The number 15 car, that's the target machine out of Ganassi Racing. Eddie Cheever, after a decade in Formula One, makes his second super speedway start, and he's having a great little run, running in 6th place right now, doing a sterling job, but he is 6 laps behind the leader.
His experience has come a long ways this year from a guy that came from Formula One and only road racing to where he's doing a very credible job on the oval.
And I'll tell you what, he may be among the most personable drivers in racing right now. It's wonderful to sit down and spend a few minutes with Eddie. He can tell you anything you want to know, and he's very colorful about it.
Boy, is he bright. And we're going to be seeing a lot of him in the upcoming road races, including the one we will be covering in Denver, Colorado in just 3 weeks. I'd say he's a hot favorite for that race.
Right now, little Alan Rahal running 223-mile-an-hour laps.
Roberto Guerrera, the Alfa Romeo powered machine. He is running up in 7th place. Take a look, though, at the wing. There is a report that it may be running loose right now.
But this is the sister car to the one that Al Unser Sr. crashed back on Thursday. So it's very good to see this car running. And it's also the 5th Alfa Romeo engine they've had in the car this weekend. Breathing a sigh of relief is the team that the car has gone this far. And the word is that the very latest edition of Alfa engine, it might be very promising. We might see a team on the upswing. And I certainly hope so, because Guerrero himself is one of the nicest men in this race.
And that team also has one of the finest engineers that motor racing has, or at least IndyCar motor racing, and that's Mo Nunn. He's very good.
Yeah, they've got the ingredients there, but I'll tell you, Roberto was very worried the other day, and you could see when he got out of the car, his wife Katie and the other members of the team kind of surrounded him, protecting him from the press. It's been a very nerve-wracking, long weekend for him.
And Bobby Rahal and Al Unser Jr. just put Mario Andretti running in 4th place 1 lap down. There is Mario in his Haviland Kmart machine. And so the leaders are beginning to run away. Now Mario's son runs in 3rd place, trying to chase down the incredibly quick Gallus-Craco operation. And they're up there, little dots on the screen, a little closer for Michael, about a straightaway ahead.
Rick Gallus has always wanted to have a race team as good as Roger Penske, and right now his car's running 1-2. Rick has to be a very proud race owner, Paul.
Mike Groff was having a great run here today. He was up to 10th place in his first career start on an oval, but now they've rolled into the pits with some mechanical problems. Hopefully Groff will get back into the action. One of the up-and-coming talents in this sport of IndyCar racing. And we're getting a nice group of newcomers. The rookies in IndyCar racing are great. as Al Unser Jr. continues to knock at the back door of his teammate Bobby Rahal. That Valvoline car has been right up there. They run slightly different lines.
This is the first clear fight that we've seen between these two men since the season opener at Phoenix. That fight was resolved in favor of Bobby Rahal. As Rick Mears coasts into the pits, this cannot be good.
Richard Buck, the Penske crew is there. This is the last hope of the Penske organization, but you see they go for the fasteners as Roger Penske looks on, the fasteners on the cowling, and that is never a good sign. Mears, if he had any hope of getting back on the lead lap, they seem to be dashed now, but the team has not yet given up the idea of getting this car back into the action. Bobby, they're working at the coolers.
Well, that's probably where the electrical system is. They're getting down into the brains, the computer box right now, and obviously that's what they're hoping the problem is.
Remember, this racetrack is owned by Roger Penske, and to have a failure of all three of his cars on his track at his race, that's devastating. That's hard to take.
Interesting angle as we watch the crew go to work on the car. Remember, too, that Rick Mears is a key ingredient in the points fight. So they're going to do everything they can to get this car back in the action and at least get Rick in a position to earn some points. Mario Andretti, running in 4th place, rolls down the pit road as well as the fight continues at the front of the field between Bobby Rahal and Al Unser Jr.
I think it should be made clear that although these men are teammates, they are deadly rivals and will be allowed to race for the lead.
Well, Sam, there's a good friendly rivalry. They really get along quite well, but there's always a little bit of jealousy, like who is the best, who's number one.
Let's go to the pits. Here's Jack.
Paul, exactly what they're doing is replacing the spark box. They've got a problem. They've lifted the bonnet. Richard Buck has completed the job. They've made the exchange. They're going to button it up now, refire the car, and Rick Mears will be back out on the race course. It'll be many laps down.
Chris Mears, Barbara Hellier up on the scoring stand, keeping track of Rick's progress, which is no progress at all at this point. Leaders running up above 220 miles an hour. The average speed of the race, 191.2.
Extraordinary that Mears, with his incredibly successful career record on ovals, has yet to win here on this track, and obviously will not today.
Under 1 minute and 45 seconds into the pits, and that took Rick from 1 lap behind the lead to now 5 laps behind the leader of the race, and that is this man, the Craco STP car, Bobby Rahal at the wheel. His last 500-mile win came in the Pocono 500. Then with Judd Power. Now he's out in front here at Michigan. 198 laps are complete. We'll be back with more.
Are we late?
We're fine. The flight doesn't leave until 10.
It's traffic.
Yes.
Did you lock the back door?
Locked.
Water the plants?
Watered. And honey, relax. I have the tickets, the traveler's checks, the wetsuits, everything.
Great.
We blew up.
Oh, boy.
One way you can stay out of hot water is to check your car's hoses for bulges, soft spots, or cracks when the engine's off and cool. Learn more in the early warning book, free from Shell.
Oh, wait a minute.
Why, just call my dad.
I got an idea. Taxi!
Ever wonder what they mean by zestfully?
Brought to you by AT&T, the right choice. By Kawasaki Motors Corporation USA. Kawasaki, the good times company. And by Shell Oil Company. Experience the difference at your nearest Shell station.
We're back at the Michigan 500, and we're under caution again. It's this man, Michael Andretti. He was running in 3rd, and suddenly a puff of blue smoke at the back of the engine, and Michael was out of the race. Here was the action just a few moments ago. Just a very sudden onset as that engine let go. Jack Arute is now in that pit.
Michael, you fought a fight valiantly, but you came up short. The engine just let you down.
Yeah, it just did. It just blew up. It's a shame, you know. I mean, we were in the points anyway. I think we had a good solid 3rd, and you know, we would have definitely taken those, but it's a shame.
A lot of Chevrolets expiring today. Can you give any account as to why, maybe?
Probably just because of fast-paced. I mean, you know, I was going slow, and I was doing 220s. The guys were pulling away from me in front, so I think it's the pace.
It's one of these days where you take no prisoners.
190 91 miles an hour, the average. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, here's Rick Gallis now on the radio with Al Unser. Your man and Bobby Rahal, your teammate in the top 2 spots with laps on the field, but we're seeing the expiration of Chevrolet engines. How much of a concern for you is that?
10-4, Al. Both of you have one more stop.
He's on the radio to Al.
What's that, Gary?
Now, the concern, we've seen Chevrolet engines go away for Fittipaldi, now Michael Andretti, Ari Luyendyk. How about your team in this terrific race pace?
Well, you know, we're just not going to worry about these guys are going to go race each other, and whatever happens, happens. We're here to race, and, you know, that's what we're here for, and they're going to go race each other. We can't worry about anything like that. We're just going to do the best we can.
Have you ever seen any kind of a race where they've run consistently such great speeds, such lap after lap, these 220-plus laps?
I'll tell you, Gary, it's scaring the hell out of me. I can't believe they're running these laps, and, you know, faster than qualifying is just, it's a real tribute to everybody.
Now, can you... Okay, he's on the radio once again talking to Al. Al's trying to take advantage of the yellow, of course, to get information from Rick. Rick, I realize you're talking to your driver. How do you explain these faster speeds than we saw in qualifying with full fuel load?
I think the track...
Now, once again, we've lost him for the moment, Paul. If he ends this conversation, we'll wait one more time and see if we can get a response to that. We realize we're putting him in kind of a tough spot here. He wants to communicate with his driver.
Okay, Gary, I don't know. You know, we just, I think the track has come to the race cars because everybody's running quick, and so, you know, hopefully we can put another 50 laps in here and whatever, how many left, and go 1-2. That'd be fun.
All right, let's go to Jack and Root.
Well, Gary, I'm with the Craco team that is with Bobby Rahal aboard, and Barry Green. Barry, you made some changes, you and Alan Mertens, to both cars in terms of the way you approach this race vis-a-vis shock absorbers. It seems to have borne fruit, first and second so far.
Well, first and second so far, Jack. We've got a ways to go yet, and of course little Al wants to win the race just like Bobby wants to win the race, so it's going to be a tough few laps to the end here. We've got to make one more stop, but the cars are working well, and if we keep our fingers crossed, a little bit of luck, we may be looking good at the end.
Well, the green flag's back out, gentlemen. Let's go upstairs.
Racing at the front of the field, the 2 teammates, Rahal, Al Unser Jr., as they come down inside Scott Goodyear. And you can get an idea of the comparative pace of these 2 guys at the front of the field as they just leave the rest of the cars behind. There are 15 cars running in the action right now, led by Bobby Rahal. Al Unser Jr. is second.
And keep in mind, Rick Gallis told them they have to make yet another pit stop. So it's going to change their game plan just a little bit. There won't be a reason for little Al to push quite as hard right now as it would be if he knew he was on his last tank of fuel, Paul.
Still running at a record pace at 206 laps. As we take a look at the running order at 200 laps, 188.7 miles an hour. The average speed of the race, that's 8 miles an hour above the record.
And keep in mind also that little Al and Rahal are very smart race drivers, very experienced. Both of them realize they're driving for the same team. It would be terrible to run both of them down the same team by doing it to each other.
Now, just in front of Rahal is Mario Andretti, the 3rd-place car. He is 2 laps behind Bobby Rahal and just about to go 3 laps down as Bobby Rahal comes underneath Mario. And remember, that's the 3rd-place car.
And remember, too, that the Craco Gallis team is doing so well today that no matter how they finish, and there's another yellow suddenly, car in turn 2. We're looking at more smoke.
Indication of a problem with Rick Mears. As Mears comes off of turn 2. He's okay and back under control now.
Report we saw some smoke, so
looked like a quick little spin or at least a sideways slide from Mears, and that brings the yellow out with 208 laps complete. So now they're gnawing away at the record and bringing it down just a bit. They'll have to clean up whatever debris is on the course. Dust kicked up. We'll be back with more from Michigan.
All the deep down quality that makes a Buick so enjoyable on a Saturday afternoon is forged in the heat of weekends we spend throughout the year.
Back at the Michigan 500, 210 laps complete, 40 laps to go. Mario Andretti, the 3rd-place car, but 2 laps off the pace, makes a stop. The leaders remain out on the course. Rick Mears' crew works over his car in the pits. Now, the problem was the engine just simply let go, but it was a pretty good pump that caused it. And, of course, they're worried about oil down on the course. There's the crew working over the now vacant car of Rick Mears with no real hope. Here is Eddie Cheever making his second start on a super speedway Chevrolet powered car, though that's a PC-18. Roberto Guerrero is right behind him, 5th place, the Alfa Romeo powered car, and that is the highest non-Chevrolet engine. So Alfa having a great day as the green flag comes back and the battle goes to the lead as Al Unser Jr. comes high, moves around Bobby Rahal, and Al Unser Jr.'s in front.
Well, you can see how the planning went on that. He was very determined that he was going to get Rahal on the start. Got a little bit of run at him. He got his turbocharger lit a little bit sooner than Bobby Rahal, and right around the outside.
Assuming both these men finish, it is a great day for Craig Gallus, but also for the drivers individually, because no matter what order they finish in, Al Unser Jr. will extend his lead in the championship, and Bobby Rahal will have bootstrapped his way up from 4th into contention.
Let's consider the problems, though, that we have seen. A number of Chevrolet engines in key teams have gone away. What's happening in these engines right now? Should these cars have problems? Should neither one of the Gallus-Greco cars be able to make it? Well, Mario Andretti is next in line. Mario Andretti hasn't won for 2 years.
But let me make a point about Mario. He, alone amongst the leaders, has not really pushed it that hard during this race. He has not been in the lead at any time, and he's run a more conservative race.
Let's go down to the pits. Here's Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, let's talk to one of the principals in the Chevrolet IndyCar program. Mario Ilian's been watching the Craig Gallus team as well as Mario Andretti's progress with Chevrolet Power. What do you attribute the rash of blown engines today?
Well, obviously it is a slight surprise for me as well, but we see much higher speeds than we have seen in qualifying or in practice. I would think the RPM have been pushed up quite a bit by this speed of increase we see here.
Well, let's check in with another driver that's out of the race. He's with Gary Gerald right now.
And that driver is Rick Mears, Jack Arute. Mario Ilian talking about the extreme pace, and maybe that's the reason the Chevy engines have gone. Have you ever been in a race where you've run so many laps at such sustained speed?
No, I must say that's about one of the quickest, that we've had. I had a lap of 2:24 at one point, and several 2:23s and 2:22s, and a lot of 2:20s. So it is extremely a fast pace. I felt like I had a little bit of an electrical problem, which caused a banging, a misfire of some sort, and I think that is what hurt the engine in mine, not really the pace itself.
When you go that fast, tough to hang back. I know, Rick. Thank you. Sorry you're out of this.
Thank you.
He still never won here in the 500 at Michigan, Paul.
And Bobby Rahal goes side by side with Al Unser Jr., and Rahal has the lead of the race again as they work their way past Billy Vukovich the third. Now Rahal out in front. They continue a tremendous fight, the first two cars, and as they do, they continue to pull away from third place Mario Andretti, who is 2 laps behind the pace.
Only in the days of Roger Penske teammates do we ever see teammates running so hard against each other. These guys are really going after it. Now, it's going to be a contest. They've got about 35, 40 laps left to go, about 35. It's going to be a contest to see whether they're going to break each other. So we got to watch, Paul.
And speaking of the Penske organization, now with Rick's car behind the wall, all 3 Penske cars are out. The last time that happened was the 1989 Indianapolis 500. Now Al Unser Jr. pulls on his teammate Bobby Rahal. The fight continues at the front of the field.
And also keep in mind, when little Al is running that close to Rahal, there he's trying right there, and there he goes by. Another pass.
Al Unser Jr. back in front again.
Keep in mind that the temperature, the water temperature, if they tuck in as tight as they do right there, these engines are making about 760 horsepower. Creates a lot of heat in the engines.
Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, we watched here in the Craco pits, and the man that came over to have a conversation was one of the owners. He came to talk to Barry Green, and he gave you some words of wisdom. The man that came to do the speaking was none other than Rick Gallus. What did Rick just tell you? What did Rick just say to you, Rick Gallus?
We're just talking about trying to run a little easier pace, but both drivers want to win this race, so we're going to have to leave it up to them.
All I can tell you, gentlemen, is when Rick left, he had a big smile on his face.
Well, that'd be the problem, trying to convince both these guys to slow it down. I mean, they have a 4-mile lead lead over the third-place car of Mario Andretti, but trying to convince him to slow it down.
Well, as we said earlier, it's the RPM that makes the difference. When you turn, like, for example, 12,300 or 400 versus the 11,700, really makes a difference, and especially at a track like this where you really don't back off all the way around.
I'm sure that drivers like Rahal especially, who's a historian, thinks back to the 40s and the Blue Crown cars at Indianapolis when Bill Holland was given the easy board, slowed down, and his teammate went screaming past him. I'm sure that's in their mind. There's Eddie Cheever in fourth place.
Well, Rahal does have a degree in history. He was a B+ student at Denison. Let's just never forget, too, about this battle. It is a lot of fun to race like this, forgetting all the statistics, the championship situation, the money, the team politics, and everything. When you're there at the wheel, you tend to forget all of that stuff, and it's terrific to race.
Well, Bobby, isn't there also a danger of once you've got a pace set, if you try to modify off it, you actually may be in greater peril?
Well, that's often the case, Paul, with the driving problems. But in this particular case today, it's really been an engine problem all day, and it's RPM. We've heard from just about everybody, and the race is just a whole lot faster than we anticipated.
Shelley Unser can't believe it either as Al Unser Jr. ducks down inside Rahal again, and the lead swaps one more time. A tremendous battle. The average pace is still 8 miles an hour above the record as Rahal tucks in behind Little Al and drafts him. And Rahal's going back for the lead. 221 laps complete.
I don't think we ever see racing at Michigan as good as this, as close to the end as this is. Guys are really flying.
Tremendous tremendous Michigan 500. About to say the fastest 500-mile race of any kind. It's still holding on to that reputation at better than 188 miles an hour. And the leaders are turning laps at just under 218 miles an hour.
Bobby Rahal, a very determined driver. Nothing but second-place finishes this year. No win. He's got the bit between his teeth. He really wants to win this race bad.
Of course, the Michigan 500 has produced some incredibly close races. 1984. Mario over Sneva by 14 100ths of a second. Emerson Fittipaldi over Al by 1/5 of a second in 1985.
Little Al's pass to go by into turn 3 just like he's doing right now.
Rahal comes back to the front of the field as the fight continues. Will the engines hold? Will the fuel hold to the finish? 224 laps are in the record book.
And just keep another thing in mind. Second place is not important when it comes to winning. People only remember first place. That's what both of these drivers are thinking right now, Paul.
So Bobby Rahal leads his teammate at the moment. Boy, we hate to get away from this battle, but there are, after all, commercial considerations, and we do want to see the end of the Michigan 500. As there is Al Unser Jr. still trying on Bobby Rahal with 224 laps complete. We'll be back for the finish of the Michigan 500 right after this.
500 continues.
At the Michigan 500, 229 laps complete. Bobby Rahal leads over Al Unser Jr. by just the flicker of an eye. And there is Al Unser Jr. coming around Roberto Guerrero, who runs in 5th place, the Alfa Romeo powered car. Some interesting scenarios being set up here. Bobby Rahal and Al Unser Jr., well, they're teammates fighting with one another for the lead. Mario Andretti runs 3rd. He hasn't won in over 2 years. Eddie Cheever in his 2nd start on a super speedway is 4th. He certainly never won an IndyCar race. And Roberto Guerrero, well, he runs in 5th place, the Alfa powered car. Here's John Beekes. Beekes runs now in 8th place in Galen Fox's car here, doing a tremendous job as he stays in the action as well. He, of course, is a former ARS champion. And there is A.J. Foyt, the grand champion, as he comes down inside Beekes. And at the moment, A.J. Foyt runs in 6th place. That leaves us only to mention the 7th place car, and that is John Andretti. He has been in the pits for a lengthy change of a whole upright assembly, but they got his car back into the action. So the whole top 10 pregnant with all kinds of excitement and anticipation.
Well, it's been a tough race on the cars, Paul. There's no question about that, but it's been the fastest race that we've ever seen.
In the top position Remember, we have an onboard camera on Bobby Rahal's car. The only technical problem being reported out of Al Unser Jr.'s is that we are having trouble with his onboard camera. Let's hope that doesn't translate to the car as we take a look over Bobby Rahal's shoulder.
In IndyCar racing in the past 2 years, only 3 races have been won by engines other than the Chevrolet. Bobby Rahal here won 2 of those. Can you imagine the irony if today, on a day when Chevrolets were blowing up right and left, he were to win his first race with the Chevrolet?
Bobby Rahal and A.J. Foyt go head-to-head here. As Rahal maneuvers around Foyt, Al Unser Jr. is 1.7 seconds back behind Bobby Rahal.
A little Al's back a little ways right now. They ran into some traffic problems with Guerrero a little while ago, but we have a pit stop coming up. Pit stops are going to be more important now than they've been all day, Paul.
They will come under the green if they continue at this pace and with no problems. Bobby Rahal, the leader of the race, and of course not only pit stops between first and second, but stops within the team. They actually are separated. There they are setting up Bobby Rahal's pit. There's actually a physical separation of 1 full pit between Rahal and Al Unser Jr., so there's maneuvering room going in and out.
This is where the men that execute the pit stop become very much part of the race, part of the speed of the race.
And in this team, they practice it daily back at their shops. Here we go. Let's go to Jack Arute.
And Paul, during the last several pit stops, they have warned Bobby Rahal not to spin the tires after the car comes down in the jack. He brings it to a stop nicely, hits his marks perfectly. The fuel going in from the tank on the other side of the pit road. They've checked the car over. They have made no major adjustments. As little Al starts to circle around, he comes back around. He lights the tires up just a bit, but he's off and away.
12.1 seconds as Bobby Rahal roars back into the action. Al Unser Jr. picks up the lead of the race. He's out in front now. And Rick Gallus's car, Al Unser Jr., well, they've not yet laid out the equipment in an anticipation of a stop.
Now that shows you that the team effort is separated. Rick Gallus is calling Little Al shots. Barry Green is calling Bobby Rahal shots. They've decided to go a different direction now. Little Al has not been in yet.
Tactically also, that puts the pressure now on Little Al because Barry Green brought Rahal in first, executed a terrific stop, and now the pressure's on the other team. And if you think there's rivalry between the 2 drivers, how about between the 2 crews that man those cars?
Sam, if they would have brought them in together, they would have had a chance of messing up each other or trying to race each other right in the pits. This way, they're going to be able to perform separately.
So now we watch for Little Al's crew to see what they're going to do and how well they will do it. The benchmark has been set at just over 14 seconds. This will be the final stop of the race with just 14 laps to go for Al Unser Jr.
But remember, too, we measure the time the car is stopped. There's a tremendous amount of time spent decelerating and getting back up to speed. That's within the driver's area. How late he can brake coming in, how well he accelerates going off. And Bobby Rahal braked very early, came in under full control, but really launched it on the exit.
Now
237 laps complete, 13 laps to go. Al Unser Jr. stays out.
Yeah, could be. His game plan could be that you can go faster when you're lighter. Going to run his fuel load down a little bit further than Bobby Rahal's was, and he'll take less fuel when he goes back out after the pit stop. And I'm fairly certain that's what their game plan is.
Now there is Bobby Rahal. You can see just up from Al Unser Jr. He almost has a full lap on him. And of course, here at Michigan, though, the roll in and roll out time at these speeds can be tremendous in terms of cost on the race course. Al Unser Jr., the lighter car now, trying to get up as close as he can, if not past Bobby Rahal, and stretch his lead just as far as he can.
Yeah, and then hope that a yellow would come out while he held that slender lead. So tactically, this is a good moment for Al Jr. right now.
That's right, Sam. In fact, that's what I was going to bring up. Little Al's going right by Rahal now for the lead. But remember now, he's lighter on fuel. He should be able to beat Bobby at the moment. Now, if a yellow were to come out, Little Al would have a distinct advantage, but...
And the yellow does come out as Al Unser Jr.'s crew comes over the wall. Yellow flag comes out just at that second. No accident being reported on the course, but Al Unser Jr. with Bobby Rahal alongside, what a tremendous advantage he picked up.
Now, it sounds like we planned that one, but I promise you we didn't. But this should leave Little Al to be able to come in under the yellow.
The yellow is for Jan Vikas, who blew an engine. So the yellow is out with 10 laps to go in the Michigan 500.
I started to mention earlier when Sam and I got talking about the yellow coming out for little Al, there won't be a tremendous advantage right now because what happens is he'll be ahead on the stereo scoring, but there are not that many cars left on the track.
Well, what it does is turns us into the old-fashioned main. We're going to see a sprint to the finish of the Michigan 500. Al Unser Jr.'s crew, the pressure is off. Gary Gerald is there.
Well, indeed, Paul, the pressure was off and an electrifying stop. And you talk about lighting up tires, he throws it sideways as he gets out of the pit. Little Al really on the hammer, yellow flag or not. They threw the gauntlet down with the challenge early from the Rahal side of this camp, but the pressure was off when the yellow came out, and he now has the luxury of the big lead as he rolls back out onto the racetrack. Less than 10 laps to go.
Consider what they might have done under the green. The stop took him 10 seconds under the caution.
This is one of those days when little Al should have been in Las Vegas betting really big on the dice table, because he certainly would have had an advantage right there, Paul.
Al Unser Jr. in front. The average speed of the race coming into this caution period as we watch Bekas roll his car to a stop is 190 miles an hour. Bobby Rahal is 33 seconds back behind Al Unser Jr. as they come across the line, but they're getting ready to bunch up, and Rahal will be within striking distance.
Because of the yellow, Rahal is locked in, the field is locked in. Little Al will be back of this same lineup that's there, but practically a full lap ahead. So there's just not any way other than another yellow for anybody to catch little Al. But remember, the race is not over yet.
Well, Bobby Rahal, you ride with him. That is the PPG pace car just out in front. Boy, we've seen an absolutely incredible race here this afternoon, and a tremendous battle. Sam Posey, at the start, we talked about the points battle and what this race will mean to it.
Well, it probably is coming out the best possible way for the Craco team, because it's putting their man that was furthest ahead in the points, Al Unser Jr., still further ahead. But it's still a very big day for Bobby Rahal because he pulls himself up so well in the points. The main thing that the yellow flag did is it diffused the head-to-head competition between these two men before it got to the last few laps.
Green flag comes out once again. We run to the finish of the race now with just over 7.5 laps to go in the Michigan 500, running at record pace, 190 miles an hour.
Now keep in mind, right now, little Al has nothing to gain by going 225 miles an hour or whatever it is per lap. Bobby Rahal, on the other hand, is impossible for him to come around and catch little Al. So the biggest hope that Bobby Rahal has right now is for another yellow flag to come out right towards the end of the race or before some accident to happen so he could come back around and be behind little Al.
Don't you think, Bobby? Suddenly, little Al has to drive a different kind of race. His mood has to change in the cockpit, become very defensive and careful. Bobby Rahal continues to drive roughly the same way he did before, which was all out.
6 laps to go for Al Unser Jr. There he is. That's Mario Andretti, the third-place competitor alongside. And Al Unser Jr. very wisely seems to have adjusted his pace backwards. He lets Mario go by, doesn't contest him. He won his first oval race at Milwaukee this year, very possibly on his way to his first super speedway win.
That's a good sign of a very experienced race driver. You know when to back off and you know when to go fast. Little Al has definitely cut the RPM down on the engine because he's aware that they've all had problems with RPM so far today. So he's really using his head, and I'm sure that Rick Gallus is talking to him about 10 times a lap.
Al Unser Jr. threads his way past Scott Goodyear.
We talk about tactics all the time. The point is that little Al stayed out those few extra laps before he planned to make that pit stop. The gamble is always that the yellow will come out while you're still out there. It's exactly what happened. It doesn't happen very often. It happened here, and it's probably the story of the Michigan 500.
Sam, every driver's dream is to be that lucky at that precise time.
Al Unser Jr. leads the race. His teammate is in second place. Before the start of the day's run, we ask him the strong suit of this team as they head into the stretch drive of the points fight.
It's in the engineering. Alan Mertens, I believe, is the best engineer around. All my guys have been with me since way back in '83 when I started, some of them, and some of them I rejoined in '88, which was, you know, 4 years ago or 3 years ago. And so We've been a family a long time, and my guys have so much heart. I haven't seen any people or any team work as hard as my guys work, and so that's a big strength.
Well, the work is paying off today for Al Unser Jr. There's Shelley as Little Al works his way around. Just under 2 laps to go now.
You know, you always look for turning points in championship seasons. That's what we talked about a little bit at the beginning. And look what has happened for Al Unser Jr. today. He has shot further ahead in the lead than he could possibly have hoped for. His 2 main rivals, Michael Andretti, his momentum destroyed by what happened today. Rick Mears' trump card, his strength on the ovals, well, that's been beaten too. So it is Al Unser Jr. benefiting tremendously. With just a few races to go left in the championship, this could be a decisive moment.
And the white flag is displayed to Al Unser Jr. Just under 2 miles to go, and an incredibly safe Michigan 500. No spins, no wall contact. All the cautions were either for blowing engines or for toe-ins on the racetrack. And Al Unser Jr. is on his way to his first super speedway win in the IndyCars. He won here in an IROC car a couple of years ago. But if he can only hold on now, he comes off the final corner. The checkered flag in the hands of Nick Finaro, and the Valvoline car with Al Unser Jr. at the wheel wins the Michigan 500 at a record pace of 189.4 miles an hour. 9 miles an hour faster than the record. Bobby Rahal comes to the line, racing for second place. And look at Rick Gallis and Shelley Unser. Boy, are they happy.
Boy, don't you know that Big Al, laying in the hospital in Indianapolis, is one happy father right now.
And Al Unser Jr. and Bobby Rahal, the only drivers who were in the top 7 in the points fight coming in this race to finish the run here at Michigan.
And keep in mind, Lady Luck is nice, but you have to be there in order to enjoy it.
Little sign to Big Al, Dad, who's watching back in Methodist Hospital in Indianapolis. Big Al, get well real quick.
Little Al is Gallis's house driver, the way Rick Mears is Penske. Rahal is sort of the outsider in this team, but this race was proof that he is treated with absolute fairness.
Al Unser Jr. rolls on the pit road slowly for the first time today as the champion of the 1990 Michigan 500. There's Maury Cranes. That's the owner, the partner there with Rick Gallis, as he comes over to congratulate a team on an incredibly well done race. There's the second place car. Bobby Rahal as he rolls into the pits. Third place, Mario Andretti unofficially. Eddie Cheever in 4th. Roberto Guerrero in 5th. A.J. Foyt is 6th. And John Andretti is 7th, followed by Scott Goodyear. We'll be back to talk with the winner of the Michigan 500. The first one for the new decade right after this.
Al Unser Jr. scored his first ever oval track IndyCar victory. Now in the same year, you score your first 500-mile super speedway victory. First of all, congratulations, Al.
Thank you. I just, first thing I want to say is I was laying in bed last night hoping that we could get here and do this, because this one's for you, Dad. Tell you what, I wish you were here, but, you know, it was just one heck of a race. Everybody was equal. There was 5 of us out there running, and everybody was equal. You know, it all depended on who got in traffic, who didn't, and that was that. And so
it was an incredible pace early on, though. Some 224, 225 mile an hour laps.
Yeah, well, once the draft gets going, those laps come around, and we run wide open all day long. And so there at the beginning of the race, I was just being real careful going through the corners because there was a lot of traffic and stuff, and everybody was taking a chance to lead this race, and there was no sense in leading it because the leader wasn't going anywhere. All he was doing was leading the race, and the 5 guys behind him were just right there. And so, you know, this first time that we were able to stay with the leader, and it felt good. And you know, I just want to thank my guys, Valvoline, you know, STP, Ray, Kim, Toshiba, everybody that's part of my racing, and it was super. And I want to say hello to all my kids back home. Hi, I wished you were here, and Dad, I wished you were here. I just hope you're feeling good.
Hey, who made the call on that last pit stop? You stayed out there, looked as if you were looking for a caution, looking to take your teammate, take the heat of him off you, and it turned out to come out right. Who made that call?
I did. I was going by the gauge, and I wasn't going to come in until the very last moment. Rick, I couldn't hear Rick on the radio, and even if he was calling me in, I wasn't going to come in until my gauge read 37.5, and then I was going to come in. But I thought Bobby came in a little bit too early, and what I was trying to do, I wasn't even thinking caution. I was thinking make up the laps, make it up, try to get a string together wide open and run and run and run. And if I could pass him when he came out of that pit stop, because I knew it'd be a short one, and he'd have distance on me, if I could pass him, then I'd be okay. And we passed him, and then the yellow came out, and I almost lost it down there in the oil. I don't know how I saved it, but... got
a little excited, huh?
It got real excited, and I'm just happy to be here. And I just want to thank all my guys. This car ran flawlessly all day, and to run 500 miles in Michigan, this guy right here has to have his you-know-what together, and he got her together.
And that guy he's talking about is his crew chief, Owen Snyder, and they're going to have a victory celebration that you won't believe, Paul Page.
13th career win for Al Unser Jr. Perhaps more important, a significant jump in the points as he continues to lead the points fight. Here's the unofficial results. Bobby Rahal second, Mario Andretti, then Eddie Cheever, Roberto Guerrero. Some great stories there. Andretti, Cheever, Guerrero, H.A. Foyt in sixth. John Andretti with perseverance, and the Porsche team keeps at it. Vikas with a tremendous finish. Scott Goodyear finally gets off 10th place in the oval run. Raul Boesel, the true sports driver. Well, they're all there and doing well as we look down through the entire field. Nice day for Mike Groff. Randy Lewis up at the top. Bill Vukovich, we saw him a lot today. Rick Mears, the lead driver for the Penske team in 14th. Then Michael Andretti, Scott Brayton, Emerson Fittipaldi, Pancho Carter, Ari Leyendyke, some pretty big names here toward the back. Kevin Kogan, Danny Sullivan, Bentonhausen, Dean Hall, Teo Fabi, Jeff Wood. The rundown and the finish. The Michigan 500. Buddy Lazier comes in 26th and final position. There's still a great many stories to explore here and more to come from Michigan. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
We asked the International Motorsports
and all, and no luck with the yellow flag, and I know it's disappointment.
Real disappointing because we ran so hard all day and led a lot of this bloody thing, and just for it to be determined like it did, with what, 8 laps or 10 laps to go, is a little disappointing. But Al, I'm glad it was. If it was any, if it could be not, if it wasn't me, at least it's Al. And we had a great race. We were wheel to wheel a couple times, and it was fun where I was. I hope it was fun for those watching on TV. And the Craco STP car the crew did fabulous pit work all day long.
This is 5 times this year out of 10 races now. Second place. What is it going to take?
Well, I don't know. I thought today was looking pretty good there for a while, and but we're running up front. We're running hard. By far the best 500 I've had here, and most competitive. And I'm a little disappointed they would be determined on a yellow. I don't even know why they threw the yellow, but
do you feel like were you forced into a situation or gambling to take that earlier stop than your teammate for the final stop?
Well, I lost my radio, so they called me in, and of course you just can't second guess it. Our telemetry was showing, I guess, that we needed to take on fuel. It was going to be that lap or maybe the next one, and it was a gamble.
We'll see you in Denver in 3 weeks.
Okay, maybe we'll get them there.
All right, Jackaroo.
Well, Gary, the Kmart Haviland people are happy because Mario Andretti has come home in 3rd position. Can you believe the pace that was set today, Mario?
Yeah, it's incredible, really. It's just a perfect day, of course, just fairly cool. And those Goodyear tires, I tell you, just performed just absolutely fantastic. In fact, we just realized that we went a little bit too conservative on the aerodynamics. I had too much aerodynamics. That's why we were just slow down the straightaway. And there was so much grip out there. And I thought I could do somewhere 220, 221, but I needed to do 220s all by myself, and I couldn't do that.
When you started IndyCar racing, did you ever in your wildest dreams think that we'd see a blistering pace, 225-mile-an-hour laps in race conditions, a new record here for speed on a super speedway? Did you ever imagine any of that 20, 25 years ago?
No, that far back was totally inconceivable.
But you've done quite well. You're on the victor's podium in 3rd position. Things are beginning to turn around for your team.
Well, the team has been doing very well. It's just that I need to pick up my part of it because Michael, as you know, is still, I think, 2nd in points, and
just need to get take advantage of my opportunities, and I think there's still time.
There's plenty of time. He'll strike for sure. Let's go to Paul Page.
All right, there's first, second, and third. We've still got some other great stories to follow here. There's still 3 men who could move to the lead of the points fight at the end of this season with any single race. International Race of Champions coming up after our coverage here, too. We'll be back.
It's really no big deal. Twice as old as most of the guys out there. So I just go twice as fast.
Sales calls, 6 cities, 2 days.
Oh, and don't forget your mother's birthday.
Sanders. Why don't I have his number?
I have a listing for a Sanders Pharmacy on Elm Street.
Can I get delivery in a week? Well, I'll call the warehouse in Houston. Can I use your phone?
When you're on the road, nobody has more ways to help you than AT&T.
Hello, Mom. Of course I'm eating right. I got just the thing for your birthday.
AT&T, how can we help you?
Kawasaki just made it easier for couples to go steady. Right now, during our 2-up, 0 down promotion, you can get Kawasaki's Tandem Sport Jet Ski Watercraft for 0 down and no payment days. See your participating Kawasaki dealer before it's too late.